Okay, so welcome to this course. In this course, I'm going to teach you how to use Flutterflow. So what is Flutterflow? Flutterflow is just a software that will allow us to create other applications, okay? And the cool thing about Flutterflow is that you don't need to know how to code, you don't need programming. You can do everything in a very visual way from the dashboard. So this is the Flutterflow dashboard. This is just like a quick view that we have of it. And here you can see that we do everything visually. And that's the great thing about Flutterflow is that you can build amazing applications way, way faster, like 10 times faster than a normal application, that if you did it the traditional way by coding. So what are we going to be building with Flutterflow in this course? By the end of this course, we're going to build a social media app. And in this social media app, you will be able to log in or register as a user. And then you will see here the posts in the feed. You will see the messages, who posted. You will also be able to see how long ago the post was posted. And you will be able to like or unlike the posts. And of course, we can go to our own posts. And here we will see the posts that have been posted by us. We will be able to delete the posts, edit the posts, and of course, we can log out of the application. So this is what we'll be having by the end of this course. And before this, we're gonna go and build some other applications just to get the foundation to build this app. So the first app that we're gonna build is a counter app. We will keep track of the times that the user has pressed the counter button. So here you can see that we have pressed 7 times, but if I keep pressing, you can see that this number keeps updating. Okay. The second app is gonna be a notes app. So in this notes app, the user will be able to post a note, to write a note and post it here, and then the user will also be able to delete the note, okay, from here. And then for the third app, we're gonna build a product list. And this is gonna be more of a demo app. And we're gonna build this app just to learn how to work with data. So we're gonna create data by writing a product name, price, and description. We will display the data here. So we can see all of the products that we have created. We can go to the detail of the product. So we will learn how to transfer data from one page to the other. And here we can see the name, price, and description. And also, we will learn how to update data. So if I write a product name here, a price, and a description, we will update this product data. So let's just write something new. Like for example, let's type in super laptop. Laptop, maybe for the price is gonna be 3,000, 3K, because now it's a super laptop. And then it's gonna be a MacBook, and let's make it Pro. So update, and now you can see that this is a super laptop. It's 3,000. It's a MacBook Pro. So this is gonna be the course structure, the course curriculum. I hope you're very excited for this because I put a lot of effort into it. I expect you to know nothing I expect you to know zero. So I want to take you from knowing zero, from knowing nothing, to being to feeling confident enough to go on and create your own applications. So that's all I have to say, and see you in the course. All right, guys. So the first thing that we need to do to get started is to go to flutterflow.io. So here in the URL, type in flutterflow.io. And once you're here in this page, we're going to start by clicking here where it says start for free or signing in. So I'm going to click sign in. And you can create an account with your Google account, with your Google email, okay? And now you'll be directed here. If it's the first time that you're using Flutterflow, you will see no projects, and we're going to create a new project. Okay, so let's go here to the top right and click where it says create new. And in here, let's start by giving our project a name. So for this app that we're gonna create, is gonna be a counter app. So I'm gonna type in counter, and maybe just like this. And I'm gonna create a blank, because here we can choose from different templates. We're gonna start by doing our application from scratch. So create blank. And now that we're here, Flutterflow is asking us if we want to connect our Flutterflow project with Firebase. Firebase is just another software that is going to give us services like the database, authentication. But for this application and for the next one, we're not going to use the database. Okay, so just let's click skip. And now we're here in the main dashboard of the project. This is the panel, right, of the project where we're going to work. Um, and here you can see that the only thing that you need to know, because here we could talk about many different things, because there are many different things we could talk about, but the only thing that we need to know is that, first of all, an application is made of widgets inside Flutterflow. And what are widgets? Widgets are just elements, building blocks. You can think of them as like Lego bricks, okay? So here on the left, you can see that we have the elements, and these are the widgets, okay? So here you can see the commonly used elements. So these are the commonly used widgets. And you can see here we have text, column, row, container, image, button. And if you click on any of these, if you, for example, let's try to drag a text to this screen and release it. And now you can, if you can see that we have the text selected here, and here on the right, you can see the properties of that widget, okay? So whenever we select a widget inside in the screen here or on the left, so to select a widget here on the left, first of all, we need to go to something called the widget tree. So this is just the list of widgets where you can choose the widgets. But if we go that below that, there's something called the widget tree here, just below the selected tab. And this widget tree, we can see our pages of our app, and we can also see the page that we have selected, what it is made of, okay? You can see, for example, that we only have one page. It's called the home page, and that the widget tree of the home page is composed of this base widget, which we call the scaffold. Okay, this is the base of any page in our application. This is the scaffold, and inside this scaffold we have a column, and inside this column we have a text, and then at the same level of the column we have an app bar, and inside the app bar we have another text. So here we can see the structure, how our page is being built. And you can any widget that you select here on the left, you can go here on the right and you can see the properties that that widget has, and you can modify it here from the right. So basically the workflow is as follows. We select a widget. So for example, let's try to add a child to this column, another child. So the way to do this is by selecting first of all the widget here on the left, and then clicking here where it says add a child to this widget. So we would add a child, maybe a text, right? Another text. So now we have two texts inside the column. And once we have the text here, we would go here on the right and change the property. So it's we add widgets as childs, then we modify the properties, and that's more or less how the workflow goes. Another thing that we can do is here on the top left here of this panel, of this window, right? We can see that we have 90%. This is the zoom. This is the amount of zoom that we want in our app. So we can increase the zoom or decrease the zoom, okay? And this is useful because it allows us to see what is going on better. And like if we zoom in, it's easier to select the small texts or small widgets, right? So for example, let's select the first text. If I select the first text, I can go here on the right, and here the first property that I see is the text property. So I can change the text to whatever I want, from hello world to hello Joseph, for example. And now we can see that the text has changed. One thing that we can see is that this text is way too close to this is way too close to the edges of the screen. This is because the position of this text is relative to its parent. So what is the parent of the text? The parent of the text is the column, right? Here we can see that on the left, we can see that this text is a child of the column. So the column is what we call the parent, because the text is inside the column. So the column is the parent. So now if we select the column, we can see that the column is positioned to the left of the screen, and we can see that the text is positioned to the top of the column. So I have to say one thing, and that in Flutterflow, the position of a widget is relative to its parent, okay? So the position of the column is relative to the parent of the column, which is the scaffold. So select the column, and let's go here on the right, and let's try to change the position of the column, okay? So here on the properties on the right, I can see a property called alignment. If you don't know what the properties are, there's like an eye next to each property, or most of the properties. And if you hover over the eye, it will give you information about what it does. So for example, for the padding, it says, sets the padding of this widget. If locked, you can edit all four values at the same time. Click on the lock button to edit each value individually and clear the button to clear all padding. Okay, so it says that it's gonna add in space, okay, between the widget and its parent. So let's just add some padding maybe to the left to see how this works. So if I add for example 16 pixels, what happens is that you can see that the column moves 16 pixels to the right because we have added 16 pixels of space to the left. So if I add in 16 pixels of space to the right, you can see that now it has a definite amount of space here on the right. So because the column was close to the left, we added a space to the left and we created some space between the column and its parent, which is the scaffold. Okay. Now, one thing that we can do is we can set the padding back to 0, and now we have another property called alignment. So this alignment, if you hover, it says where to position this widget within its parent. Oh, this is very interesting because now we can select where we want to position the column. And here you can see we have all these positions available, but we are interested in these positions over here because they are at the center. We want to move maybe the column to the center, right? So let's move it to the center like this. And now we can see that the column is at the center. That's perfect. Now let's try to position, let's zoom out a little bit. Let's try to position the text in the middle. So to do that, we're going to keep going down, and there's a main axis alignment. Okay, so this main axis alignment, if you hover over the eye, it says how the child elements should be laid out. So one thing that we can do is that we can see that they are laid out at the start here. We can choose this one that sets the children at the center. And now we can see that we have centered the children. So you can see that it is not that difficult to actually lay out the elements. You just have to take into account that the position of each element is relative to the parent. And in case of the columns, you can also have access to how you position the children inside the columns. The column is a widget that doesn't have a specific size or a specific or it's not even visible. The column is just a way for us to arrange other widgets inside the column. And the row is also a widget that arranges widgets inside itself. The text and images and buttons are visible elements on the screen that we can actually interact with. Okay, so I hope this video was helpful as an introduction to the dashboard, and I'll see you in the next video. All right, so now we will create our counter app, okay? So to create the counter app, first of all, let's get rid of one of the texts. So to delete a widget, you go here and on the left, you select it, and you can hit the delete key. But the way I like to do it is to right click and then just choose this delete button here, this trash icon, okay? And now we are left with just one widget, with just one text. So now let's just change the contents of the text here on the right. Let's change it to something like, you have pressed the counter button 0 times, okay? So now we want to create a text that is going to tell us how many times we have pressed the counter button. One thing that we can do is we can scroll down here in the properties panel and set here the font size of the text to 20 so we can see it better. So now we can see that the text is very close to the edges, okay, of the screen. So what can we do to make the text, to give the text some space? One thing that we could do is add some padding to the text, but it's better to add the padding to the parent of the text. Since we have the column as the parent, this will allow us to add padding not just to this text, but to any child that we have inside the column. So let's select the column and add in some padding here on the left, on the right, and on the left, like this. A little trick, if you want to add padding on all sides of the column, you can just click this icon button, and now just set the amount of space that you want for each side. So if you set 16, then 16 is going to be applied to every side of the column like this. And now we have some space around, okay? So now we have to think about how can we actually change this 0 to 1, 2, 3 every time we click the button. But let's first add the button, okay? So to add the button, we are going to go to the left, select the home page. So we're going to select the scaffold widget, and then we're going to add a chat to this widget. So let's add the child and let's look for FAB. And this stands for floating action button. So let's choose this FAB widget. Let's click on it. And now we have added a floating action button as a child. So one thing that we can do is we can add an icon to this button. If we zoom in, let's zoom in and let's go down. We can add in an icon to this button. So let's add an add icon. To do that, select the floating action button, click on add child, and let's look for icon. And let's click here where it says icon. And now we can see the icon is here. It's not very visible, so we can go to the properties panel and change maybe the size of the icon to 32. We can change the color here. So click where it says icon color and let's change it to white. So you can drag this pointer to whatever value you want and click on use color. And now we're gonna click where it says icon and let's look for an add icon. So just type in add and let's select this first option over here. Perfect. Now we have an add button over here. All right. So now we want the user to click this button, and every time the user clicks this button, we want this 0 to go up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? We want it to go up like that. So how can we achieve this logic? Well, first of all, we have to use something called a variable. If you don't know what a variable is just a value that changes in time or that has the ability to change in time. That is why we call it a variable. Because if we leave it like this and we run our application, we can click this button as many times as we want, but nothing's going to happen. We need this value to be able to change in time. So to this, we're going to select the text and we're going to make a little modification. Here, where we have this text, all of this text is constant right now, but we want this 0 to vary. So we're going to set the value of this text equal to a variable, okay? And how do we do this? First of all, we need to select here where it says text, and you can see that there's an orange icon, a small orange icon. Let's click on it. And now we're going to look for a way to create a variable inside here, okay? So let's see, let's go and we're gonna go to something called app state. We should go. But we don't see anything called app state here, okay? And I'm gonna talk about what app state is in a moment. So the first thing that we need to do actually is we need to create the variable, okay? Because we haven't created the variable, so it's impossible to access something that doesn't exist. So let's go here to the sidebar. To the left here, there's a sidebar here just on the left edge. And we're gonna click a tab called app state, okay? It looks like a folder. So we're gonna click on it. And in here, we can create the variable, okay? We can create a state variable. And this is the value that we're gonna create that's gonna change. And we have to give it a name. So let's add it. And let's add in a name for our variable. I'm gonna call my variable counter. It's gonna start at 0 and then it's gonna go 1, 2, 3. And this is the type of the variable. If you don't know what what the type of a variable is, it's basically the kind of value that a variable can store. For example, if I say that the counter is of type string, that means that I want my counter to be a text. In our case, we want the counter to be a number. So it's going to be an integer, what we want. So if you click on this dropdown, you can see that we have integer, double string, and boolean. These four first data types are the most used, okay? They are the most used. Then we have other kinds of data types, but most of the times you will work with these four because they are the most used, okay? So integer stands for number. So an integer is any number, any whole number, okay? Negative or positive. It could be, for example, 1, 2, 3, 10, minus 10. Double is a number, but that has a decimal value. So, for example, 3.4, 4.5, minus 3.7. So every single number that has a decimal value, for example, 3.4569, that's also a double. Then a string is a text, is any text or sentence, made of texts. And then Boolean is a variable that can hold a value of true or false. And when I say true or false, I don't mean the string true or false. I mean that it can hold the value of true or false. And if you ask yourself, why would we use this kind of variable? It's very useful when we're trying to set the logic of our application. For example, we could specify in our app that when the user, for example, signs in for the first time, if the user signs in for the first time, then if that condition evaluates to true, then we can do something, right? Or if it evaluates to false, we can do other things. So that is the reason why we use Boolean variables. So now that you know more or less about the four main data types, let's go ahead and choose our data type. We're going to choose the integer because we want our counter to be a number. And here we have the options to make we have the options to make this variable a list. So what is the difference between making a list and not making it a list? If we don't make it a list, that means that our variable is going to hold just one number. But if we make it a list, we give the ability to our variable to hold many different numbers. And the same would be if it was of type string, it would be able to hold many different texts. And we can make it persisted. Persisted means that if the user logs out of the application and goes back in again later in the future, persisted means that if this is toggled on, the app will remember the value that variable had. So for example, let's say that we have our counter, right? And we press the button 10 times. So then counter equals to 10, right? Because we pressed the button 10 times. So if we close the application and we come back an hour later, for example, or a minute later, or just we close the application and we go back in, then the app will remember the value, and it will show us that the counter is equal to 10. Okay, it will show us you have pressed the counter 10 times. But if we don't toggle, if this is toggled off, then when we close the application, if we go back in, we will see 0 instead of 10 because it won't remember the value. Okay, it will reset the value. Okay, so now that we know this, let's create the counter. It's going to be a number, and let's hit create. Okay, so now we have our variable here. So now we can go back to the widget tree. So the widget tree is like the main place where we do all the things. Okay, so let's go back to here, and now we're going to go back to the text. Okay, so make sure you have selected the text, and we're gonna click this orange icon, and now we see something. We see an option called app state. So now we can click here where it says app state, and now we have access to the counter. But one thing that we can do is we can do something called combine text. So we're gonna click here where it says combine text. And now in here, we're gonna create 3 texts. The first one is going to be, you have pressed the counter button, right? Because we want this text to be always the same. You have pressed the counter button, that's not gonna change. So you have pressed the counter button. And here we can, at the end of button, just give it a space. Just press the space bar so there's a space. And here at the top, you can see what we are writing. You have pressed the counter button. So now we have this. Now we're going to add another text. So click here where it says add text. And now for the second text, let's click this orange icon and let's go to app state, and we're going to select counter. So counter, select counter, and then select confirm. So here you can see what we're writing at the top. You have pressed the counter button, and then there's like a $sign and all of this and like this text over here, right? Well, this means that this is the variable that we're trying to get. Okay, so you have pressed the button, counter, and then add another text, and then we're gonna say times. And we can add in a space here at the start of the times word. Okay, like this. So there's like space between the counter and the times and the you have pressed the counter button. Now let's hit confirm. And now you can see that this text over here, you can see that this text over here in the middle has changed. Now it says you have pressed the counter button, and it says like a 1 and times. So basically this is telling us that this is going to be a variable, okay? And we're gonna get it from the counter. But now how can we actually update the counter? Because the counter is now equal to 0, okay? But how can we update the counter? Well, to update the counter, we need to add an action to this button. So to add an action to this button, you can select it here from the screen, but the best practice is to select it here from the left. Because if you try to select it here from the screen, you can see that I can accidentally maybe click on the icon instead of the button, or maybe if there are many different elements here, maybe it's easy to click something that you don't want to click. So let's go here to the left and let's select the floating action button. And now let's go here to the right and let's go to this actions tab, okay? We were always looking at the properties, but now let's go to the actions. And inside the actions, we have the option to add an action. So let's add an action. And now for the action, we're going to scroll down a little bit, and here you can see the types of actions that we have: on tap, on double tap, on long press. So we're going to select on tap, and we're going to scroll down to where it says backend database. So just click on here to display the options. And in here, we're going to Okay, here we have the option to choose to choose the database. Okay, but we're not looking for the database because in this project we're not working with the database. So we're gonna keep scrolling down and select the state management. Okay, and inside the state management you can see that we have the option to update app state. So let's click this option and let's add in a field. And here when we add in a field, we have the option to choose our counter variable that we created. It's of type integer. So let's select our counter variable. And now we're going to what we have to do is that here where it says counter integer, we have to click here in this arrow that we see here on the right. Click on the arrow. Not don't click remove because this is gonna remove the option, the selection. Just click on this arrow so we can display this select update type. So this is the kind of update that we want. So what do we want to do to the counter when we press this button? We want to increment it by 1, right? We want to increment the variable by 1. So let's select the update type. So increment, decrement, and we want to increment by 1. Okay, increment value by 1. So let's just that should be it. That should do it. So now how do we test this? Okay, because we have created our app. One thing that we can do also, and that I like to do a lot, is to give the text of the app bar, this text at the name of the app. So let's click on the text. You can do so from the left also, and let's type in counter. Okay, so we know it's a counter app. Okay, now that we have our app completed, we want to test it. So how do we do this? Okay, so to test this any app, you have to go here to the top right, and here you see like a thunderbolt, and it says if you hover over it, it says run your app in test mode. Okay, this is what we want. We want to test our app. So just click on the thunderbolt, and a new window will open, and this window will try to build our app. Okay, so let's just wait a little bit. We have to wait like 2-3 minutes. Okay, so the project has been built. So now here we can test the app. We can also here from the top right, we can zoom out, we can zoom in. So one thing that we can see is that this is black or this is dark, right? And if we go back to our project dashboard, we can see that this is like light, this is white. So why is this happening? This is happening because I set my Flutterflow to be in dark mode. So when I create a project by default, the setup is dark mode. So to change this, if this is happening to you, you have to go here to the project and go here on the left sidebar and go down to where it says theme settings. It's like this paintbrush here on the left, and just click on it. And now we're gonna select colors, and let's go scroll down a little bit and untoggle this dark mode theme. Okay, now we can go back to the window where we have our app running, and there's something that we can do. So one thing that we can do is we can click here where it says at the top instant reload. This is gonna run our app again, and it's gonna show the changes that we have made here. So the cool thing about this test mode is that we can go back to the project at any time and make the changes that we want here, maybe some quick changes that we don't like when we see our app, and we can go back to this window where our app is running and hit the instant reload, and the changes will apply. And here we can see that we have a time in which that we have for our session. So it says expires in 10 minutes. That means that if I stay 10 minutes here without clicking this instant reload, then this session will expire, which means that I will have to run my application again. Okay, but it doesn't really matter. It's not like really, I mean, it's not like a deal breaker or anything. It's just like it gives us 10 minutes. So let's just instant reload. Okay, and now we should see that we get the light version. Okay, get the that's it. That's better. This way I can see it better. So now we can test it. We can click the button, and we can see that it goes to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So what is happening? What is going on? I'm clicking this button. When I click this button, I'm activating the action of the button. So I'm updating the variable that we created by 1. And this piece of text over here is getting the value from the variable. So because we have said that this piece of text is going to get the variable from the app state variable counter. So it is showing it here in real time, okay? So this is the app. This is the counter app. We have created it. We have done it successfully. So yes, this is the app, and I'll see you in the next video. Okay, so now that we have finished with our counter app, we're gonna start to create our notes app. Okay, so to do this, we can go to the top left corner where we see this Flutterflow icon. And now this will take us back to the dashboard, to the project's dashboard, and we can just go ahead and create a new project. For this new project, I'm going to call it just Notes app. I'm going to create it from a blank. So we're going to create it from scratch. And we're not going to need the database. So let's just click skip. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to rename this text. So we can select it, go here to the properties panel, and change it maybe to Notes app, something of your liking. And now we can go back here to the widget tree and we can start building our app, okay? So the first thing that we can add here, we have to think about how we want to build this, okay? So we want a text field maybe for the user to input the note, and then an icon or a button so that the user can actually upload that note to the app, and we can see this, and we can see it here displayed on the app. So a text field and an icon maybe. So let's go ahead and select the column, and we're going to add a child to the column. So let's add in a row first, for example. And now we have this row over here. Let's change it so that the row is displayed at the center. So let's select the column and let's select the main axis alignment to center. So now we have the row here at the center. We can also align the column at the center here if we want in the properties panel. And now inside this row, so select the row, we're going to add children inside the row. So add child, and we're going to add a text field. So look for text field, and here you can see the option to select the text field. So let's click in the text field, and the text field is basically a widget that allows the user to input text inside, okay? So we have the text field. Now let's add in an icon maybe to the right of the text field. So let's select the row again, add child to the row, and let's look for icon, and let's select an icon, okay? Now we can see that the icon is over here. We can zoom in a little bit so we can see it better. The icon is next to the text field. Let's change the size of the icon on the properties panel. Here at the bottom, you can see there's an icon size property. Let's change it to 50. And now let's change the icon color. Let's change the icon color. So click on the icon color. And here you have a color picker. You can just drag it to whatever value you want. Let's change it to the primary. So you can see here that we have some color set already. Let's change it to our primary color. That's perfect. And now we can change the icon itself. So from this settings outline, where it says settings outline, let's change this icon to something different. So let's click on this and let's look for add, and we're gonna choose this add icon, okay? So this is looking good. It's looking perfect so far. So now maybe we want to add some padding, maybe some space around the text field and the icon. So one thing that we can do is we can just select the column and add in some padding to all sides of the column. So let's lock the icon. Let's click on the lock and then select 16 maybe for all the sides, okay? Now we can zoom out a little bit. And now we can see that we have this over here, which is good. But now if we run this application and we input some text in here, we will see that if we press in here, we will see nothing, okay? So we need to think about how we want to store our notes. So we want to have a variable, right? Because we're now working with databases, so we have to store everything locally. Here, locally means that I'm storing the data inside my app, right? So we need a variable, right? So if you think of a note is actually just a text. And we're going to have several nodes. So we're going to have a list of texts, right? It makes sense because when the user inputs something here in the text field and presses this icon, we're going to store whatever values in here. We're going to store it inside our notes list variable. And so maybe here we write a note, we're going to store it inside. We write another note, we're going to store it inside. And then we need also a way. So first of all, we need to store, and then we need a way to display the stored values of our variable in here, okay, in the app. So to do this, first of all, we're going to create the variable, okay? That's the first thing that we need to do. So let's go here to the sidebar and let's go to the app state again, and let's add a state variable, and we're going to call this notes. So our variable is going to be called notes. And it's going to be the value of this variable is going to be as a text, but we want to be a list of texts. So let's select this list. And we're also going to make it persistent because we want the app to remember. So we want the app so that when the user closes the app and comes back to the app again, we want the app to remember the values that this variable had. So if it had 3 notes inside of it, we want the app to remember so it can show those three notes again to the user, okay? So let's click on persisted, create. And now let's go back to the widget tree. And now what we can do is that we can actually go ahead and define the action for this button, okay? So the action is going to be whatever it is in here, we want to store it to our variable, okay? So let's click on the icon. Let's go here on the properties panel. Let's go and click the actions tab. And now we will add in an action. So add action, let's scroll down. So we want to be on tab. So when the user taps that icon, we want to scroll down. And when you see state management, click on that. And now we want to update app state. And once you click on update app state, you have to add a field. So let's click add a field and select the notes variable that we created. We want to update these notes. And how do we want to update it? Let's click here on the arrow on the right, and here we're going to select how we want to update. We're going to select the update type. So select, and we want to add to list, right? So we want to add something. So we want to add to list, to which list? To the notes list. And what do we want to add? Here it says value to add, here below. So let's click this orange icon and want to add whatever we will have in the text field. So let's select this widget state. And inside this widget state, we have the option to choose our text field label. So this is going to be the value. It's going to make reference to whatever value there is in our text field. So let's choose that. And now we have already set everything up. So now if we run the application, this is actually going to work. Whatever we write in here, if we press this button, it's gonna get stored in our variable, but it's not gonna show anything. So we will do this display notes in the next video. Okay, so now let's go ahead and display the notes, because as I said before, if we run this right now, we're going to store the values, but we're not going to show anything in here. So to show something in here, let's go ahead and we're going to look for a widget called the list view, okay? So I'm going to explain what it does in a moment. So let's select the column and let's add a child to the column and let's look for list view. And now we have the list view in here. One thing that we can do is we can drag the list view on top of the row. So just click and drag the list view here on the widget tree on top of the row. And now we have it in here. Another thing that we can do is we can expand the list view so it covers all the available space on the column. So to do this, we're going to go to the properties panel, and there is a property here right next to the padding. It says expansion. So we're going to hit this expand button over here, and it says expanded makes the widget fill the space along the main axis. Horizontal for row, vertical for column. Since the list view is inside the column, it's going to try to occupy all the space available on the vertical axis. So let's click the expand, and we can see that it tries to occupy all the space available. The only space that is not occupying is the padding that we set for the column, right? And also there's some space covered filled by the text field and the button. So this space that this row occupies is not also it's also going to be respected by the list view, of course. So it's just occupying all the available space. And now for the list view, what the list view does, the good thing about the list view is that whatever child we give to the list view, so we can add a child to the list view, and then the list view has a property here on the right. If you take a look here, it has something called generate dynamic children here on this tab bar. It has an option called generate dynamic children. So this allows the list view to generate as many children. So for example, let's imagine that we add a text to the list view. Okay, let's imagine that we add a text. So the list view will generate as many texts as items that are in a variable, in another variable. So in other words, we can tell the list view to look at a variable, for example, a list of texts like we have defined, and say, okay, list view, I want you to take a look at this list of texts, and for every single text in the list, I want you to create a copy of your own child. So if we give a text as a child to the list view, it's going to create as many texts as items that are in the notes list. Okay, so first of all, let's give a child to the list view and see if this actually works. So let's go ahead, select the list view here on the widget tree, add a child. Let's add in a list tile. Okay, we can add in whatever child we want, but we're gonna choose the list tile, and I'll tell you why later on. Okay, but we're gonna choose the list tile, and we can see that the list tile is a widget that has a title, a subtitle, and it has like an icon here. Okay. But now what we're gonna focus on is that we're gonna tell the list view to look at our list of nodes, and that right now is empty. Right now we have no values because we haven't typed in anything, right? But it's gonna look at our list of our list of nodes, and it's gonna generate one of these lists. Is gonna generate one of these for every single node that we have. Okay, so to do that, we're gonna select the list view. We're gonna go to generate children from variable here, and we're going to set a variable name. Okay, so let's for example say item, and for the value, okay, so the value is the variable that we want this list view to take a look at. So we're gonna click here where it says on set, and we're gonna go to app state, and we're gonna select our nodes list, and we're gonna hit confirm. So this, we're telling the list view, hey, take a look at our nodes list, and for every element I want you to create one of your one copy of your own child. And this item is, if we hover here, it says what it is. Okay, give this variable a name. So okay, give this variable a name so you can reference it elsewhere in Flutterflow as well as in the generated code. So this item is basically going to make reference to every single element of the text. Okay, this is just like a reference to the elements of the nodes. Okay, so to each element of the nodes, because these nodes is going to have maybe buy apples. I'm just making it up, okay, but maybe it has buy apples, go to school, and maybe visit friend. Okay, so buy apples, go to school, and visit friend. So this item is going to reference each time. It's gonna so this item is just going to be like a reference to every single item, and you're going to understand more what this is a little bit later. Okay, just give me some time. So now that we have this list style over here, okay, what happened was that I didn't click confirm. Okay, so click list view. We're gonna do this again. Okay, item. Let's set the value to widgets to app state nodes. Okay, so we're gonna look at the nodes and click confirm. Okay, don't forget to click confirm here. It says this widget will now generate these children dynamically from the specified variable. Okay, so you're gonna generate children according to the items in the variable. Okay, so okay, so now we can see that it says it's like you can see like many copies of this child of this list style. This is because this is a way of us to tell us that the list view is gonna generate children from these nodes. Okay. All right, so now we can go ahead and try to test this out. So now what should happen if we test this? What should happen is that whatever we write in here, we press this button, and we're gonna store this in our list, and then our list view is taking a look at our nodes. So if we, for example, if we add in one, then the list view will show us one copy of its child. If we add in another one, it will show us another. So let's take a look at how that would look like. Let's press this run mode. I'm gonna get rid of that other window that I had here. Okay, and this is gonna take a little bit of time. Just let's wait. All right, and now we can see that we have our app running. Okay, so we can see that we have the text field over here, so we can start writing things in here. And one thing that happens normally sometimes is that it gets a little bit frozen. Sometimes it doesn't. If you zoom in and zoom out, sometimes something weird happens and it doesn't let you type. But just zoom in and zoom back again to 100%, and it should allow you to write. Okay, here. So we can write in something. For example, let's write in something. For example, my first note. And I click this, and once I click this will get stored in our lists, in our notes list. Okay, so I click it, and nothing appears to happen. But if we see here, we can see that the list view has generated one child. I'm gonna type in another thing. So my second note, for example, I'm gonna click the add button, and here we can see that it generated another one. So what's happening is that we are storing the elements in our list, and the list view is listening, is taking a look at the list and say, okay, two elements, so two children. Now if I add my third item, my third node, and now we have three elements. So the list view can say, okay, three elements. I'm gonna generate one child for every element you have. And this is cool because now we have like we know that our list view is listening to our variable, is taking a look at the variable, but we want to actually show here the actual value, right? The actual value. And how do we access this value? Well, we access it by the variable that we defined earlier, this item variable, right? We defined an item variable. So this item variable is going to be equal to each one of these texts. So each time, so for example, the first time in the first iteration, item is going to be equal to my first node, and this is going to display the item value. So this is going to display my first node. In the second iteration, item is going to be equal to my second node. So when the nodes app generates the second child, item is going to be equal to my second node. When the list view generates the third child, item is going to be equal to my third node, and we're going to display here the value of item. Okay. So item is going to be every single time, and in every single child, item is going to be something different. It's going to be a different element of the nodes list. Okay, so let's go back and let's set this up. So to set this up, we have to select our list style, and then we can arrange this. We're gonna modify it, style it later, but for now the important thing is that we see the information. So let's just scroll down to the title and let's click the orange icon for the title, because we want to get the value from item. Here you can see we have item. So this is basically saying we're gonna get the item. This other item is so if I put it like this, it's a little bit difficult to understand maybe. So let's go back to the list view, and one thing we can do is we can, instead of calling it item, we can call it node, for example, and then click confirm. Okay, I think if I put it like this, it's gonna be easier to understand. And then let's go to the list style and set the text property of the list style to, so click the orange icon and set, and you can see it says node item. Node is going to be equal to a different value each time in each child. So it's the node item. So let's click on node item, confirm, and now you can see that the title here changes to node item. So now this is going to be whatever value this child is looking at. So for the first child, it's going to be looking at the first value of our list. The second child is going to be looking at the second value of our list. The third child is going to be looking at the third value of our list, and so on until we finish with the elements of our list. If there are 5 elements in our list, they're going to be 5 children. If there are 10 elements in our list, it's going to be 10 children, each one of them taking a look at the corresponding value. Okay, so now let's go back here and let's instant reload and see if this actually works. So just hit instant reload to apply the changes that we have made in the project. And now you can see my first node, my second node, my third node. That's perfect. Now for the final touch, we can just style this a little bit to make it a little bit more pretty maybe. So let's go back to the project and select the list style. And we don't want the subtitle, so let's remove the subtitle. We actually want some padding around the contents. So let's go up until we see content padding. So one thing is the padding, another thing is the content padding. The padding is the space around, and the content padding is the space inside. Okay. So we're gonna lock this lock, and we're gonna put 16 pixels of padding inside. We have an icon here like an arrow. We don't want that actually. So let's go down and let's get rid of the arrow. Here we have an option called trailing icon. Let's just click the X and delete that. And for the leading icon, the leading icon is the icon that is here at the start. So we're gonna select one. Okay, let's click on none and let's look for node. And let's select this. So now we have our nodes in here. Now if we go back to the, and another thing that we can do also, another thing that we can do is select the list style and go to the padding maybe. Yes, and select this bottom padding to 16, because if we don't do this, then they're gonna be like next to each other, super next to each other. I mean, it depends on what you want. If you want to add some spacing, you can add some spacing. If you don't want, that's completely up to you. So now let's go here and let's instant reload. Let's go to the build and let's instant reload it so we can test it. Okay, so my first node, my second node, my third node. Let's add in a new node. For example, let's I need buy apples, for example. This is gonna be like a reminder. And now you can see that we have buy apples. Perfect. Now the only thing that we need to do is that we need to add in an option to delete the nodes, okay? So we'll do that in the next video. All right, so now let's go ahead and try to add the function to delete the nodes. Okay, so to delete the nodes, we have to actually go back to the project. And now this is why I selected a list style. Now you're gonna know why I selected a list style, okay? Because now you can click here in the list style And you can go to the properties panel, and if you scroll down, you will see a property here. It's a little bit small, but it's a property called slidable properties. So now you can toggle this on, and now you can select open slidable, and now you can see that we have here like a button. Okay, this button will appear when the user drags the node to the with the finger, or with the mouse button, with the mouse cursor. When the user drags it to the left, he will be able, or the user will be able to see this action widget. Okay, so now we can go ahead and try to add some logic or some styling to this slidable action widget. Just select it here. You can also see here that in the widget tree we have access to it here. It's just under the list style. Okay, so let's change the share text to delete, because we want to make a delete action. Let's change the color from white to red like this, and let's change the icon from the share icon to, let's look for delete icon, and here we select this one. And now we see that we have styled our button. Now we want to add in an action to this button, right? So go here to the actions and add in an action. We want to add some logic. Add an action, we want to be on top, and then maybe what we want to do is that we want to go to the state management and update app state. We're gonna update our state variable, which is our nodes. So update app state, we're gonna add a field, and then we can choose our nodes. And we want to click here on this arrow and select the update tab. We want to remove from list, right? We want to remove from this list something. So let's remove from list, remove from the nodes list. What value do we want to remove from this list? Well, we want to remove the item value of this child, right? Because for every child, we had the item variable, right? That was equal, that was referencing the value of the list, right? So we want to remove from this list whatever value the item value has. Okay, so this node item is what we want. Okay, because this node item has the value of the actual value of the nodes. Okay, so we want to remove this node item. So whatever we have in here, when we click this button, we're going to remove this value from our nodes list. Okay, so now that we have that done, we can go back to the properties, and we can select our list type, and we can click on close slidable. If you want to close this, you can click on close. Don't click this one. Don't click this one, because if you untoggle this, then you're gonna delete the action. You're gonna delete the whole action. So just close it like this. So you can open it and close it like this. Let's go back to the test run, and let's instant reload. So now we should be able to delete the items, okay, of our list. Yeah, okay, so we can input more nodes. We can now drag like this, see? And we can drag and we can get rid of this, okay? So delete, 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 delete. Perfect. Now we can add in more nodes like this, maybe. And now there's one final touch that we could do. And here you can see that when I write something, for example, another note, and I hit the plus icon, you can see that everything works fine. But you can see that this is also here, right? I mean, I want this to disappear when I click this add button. So how can we achieve this? Let's go back to this action, to the plus action, to the add icon, to this add icon. Let's select it. Let's go to the actions panel. And one thing that we can do is we can open the action flow editor. So let's open it and see what happens. And here we can see this is an action editor. And here we can see our action. This is the action that we created. But one thing that we can do in the action flow editor is that we can add more than one action. And we do that by clicking this add icon here. So we can add another action. We can add a conditional, but we're going to add an action, okay, right now. So let's add an action, and we have to define this action. So we can define it just like we did earlier. We can define it here from the right, and we can also look for an action here in the search bar. And we're gonna look for an action called clear, and we're looking for something called like clear text field, something like that. So if we go inside this widget UI interactions, we can see that it says clear text fields. And now it shows us the option to choose the text field that we have in our page. We only have one text field, so it's very easy, text field number 1. But you can see that this is not very good, because it's telling us text field number 1. And yes, now it's fine because we only have one text field. But how about we have? What about if we have maybe 5 or 10 different text fields? Which one do we know? Which one do we know that we have to choose? It's very important to name our widgets. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to name our widgets. So let's hit close right now, and let's just test this now. For now, let's just test this. It should work. If we hit instant reload now, every time we adding a note, we should see that the text field clears itself. So let's type in whatever, and then you can see that it clears itself when we upload our note. Okay. And I'm going to show you how to change the name of a widget, which is a very important thing. So just select the text field widget, for example. And now here on the right, on the properties panel, you can see that here at the very, very top, you can see that we have an edit button, and we have the name here of the widget. So you can click this edit button and change the name. So you can change this basically to the note, for example, note text field. So this is a more descriptive name. So if we see this somewhere else, for example, in the actions in the actions editor, then this is going to be very clear what it is. It is the note text field. So just to take a look, and now just let's click this check mark like this. Now to take a look at how this would look like, let's go back to the icon. Let's click the open action editor, and now we can see that in the clear text field action, we can see that now we have the option to choose the note text field. See, this is way more clear, more visually. I mean, if you see this, you know what you're talking about. If you see text field number 1, then it's like more difficult for you to know what this text field actually is. Okay, so this is gonna be it for this video, guys, and see you in the next one. Okay, so now we're gonna start to create our product lists app. Okay, so to create a product list app, let's go ahead and go here to the top right corner and click create new. Let's enter the name. So I'm gonna enter product list app like this. You can call it whatever you want. I'm gonna click on create blank. And here, Flutterflow is asking us if we want to connect our project here in Flutterflow to Firebase. So we're gonna actually want to set this up. So let's go ahead and click on next step. And here you can see that it is asking for a Firebase project ID. So where do we get this from? So to get this, we need to first of all create a Firebase project. So to do that, let's open a new window and let's type in Firebase. So you have to type in firebase.google.com and hit enter. And here you are presented with the main page. So now you have to click on get started. And you will be able to create an account with your Gmail, with your Google account. And now you will see that you have no projects if this is your first time. So let's click on create a project. And here you can enter the product name. I'm gonna enter the same name that I entered in for my Flutterflow project, but you can enter any name that you want. So I'm gonna enter product list app like this, and click on continue. It's asking us here if we want to connect it to the Google Analytics. If you want to set up Google Analytics for this project, we don't want Google Analytics, so let's toggle this off. Let's click on create project, and this will last over a minute. So just let's wait for this to set up. Okay, so now our project is ready. Let's click on continue. And now we will present it with our project dashboard here in Firebase. So the first thing that we need to do is that we need to tell Firebase that we want to allow Flutterflow to get into here and make the changes that it needs to make. Okay, so to do this, let's go here at the top left, and we see here like a settings wheel. So let's click on it and let's click on project settings, and let's go to users and permission. And here we will see that we have our account here. We are the owner of this project, but we want to add Flutterflow as a member. So let's click on add member, and let's type in Firebase. Make sure you spell it correctly, okay? It's Firebase at Flutterflow.io, okay? And then for the role, it's going to be editor, okay? So make sure it's Firebase at Flutterflow.io, and then as the role, we're gonna set editor. So click on done and click add member. And now we have added Firebase, Flutterflow. We have added Flutterflow as an editor to our project. Let's go back to General. And if we go back to the General tab, we are going to see here a project ID field. And here we can select this project ID. So we can select it and then copy it with Control-C. And now let's go back to our Flutterflow project. And here we can just paste the ID and click Connect. Okay, once we click connect, we have to click here where it says auto generate config files. This will just set up the connection between Flutterflow and Firebase. Okay, so let's click here and then generate files. Okay, so now everything has been set up. Here is asking us if we want to enable authentication and create a user collection. We want to have this, but for the next project. For this one, we don't need authentication. So let's leave this untoggled. And now let's click on start building. And now we're presenting with our homepage, okay? So now one thing that we can do is go back to the Firebase project, and we have to think about what we need, okay? We're gonna work with a database. So this Firebase project allows us to have access to many different services. We can see the services here. We go to the left and we click here where it says build. We can see all the services that we have available. So for this app that we're gonna build, we're only gonna use the Firestore database, okay? We're only gonna use a database. So let's click on Firestore database. And now it's going to ask us if we want to create a database. So let's just click on create database. And now it's going to ask us if we want to create the database in production mode or in test mode. We're going to select test mode. So let's select test mode and click next. And now it's going to ask for the location of the Firebase database. And we want it, you can choose Europe or United States. I'm going to go for United States, but you can go for whatever option you want and click on enable. Okay, so now we have everything has been set up. So now we have our Firebase database available, and you can see that we have an empty database. Okay, so how our database is structured? Once we have our database here for our project, Firebase works with collections. So that means that you have to create a collection here, and the collection can have many documents, and each document has many fields. So that's basically the structure. So for our products, so for our product list application, we will have a products collection. So let's go ahead and see how we would create this manually. Let's click where it says start collection, and let's type in the name of the collection. So it's going to be products. Okay, click next. And now we have the collection name products, and let's create a document just to see an example of how this would look like. Let's click here where it says auto ID, and this will generate a document ID. Okay, now we have our document, and now we need the fields for the document. So the fields that we need for the product are 3 fields. It's the name, the price, and the description. So let's type in name, and the name is going to be of type text. That's okay. And for the value, we can give it maybe just an example. Let's type in car as an example of a product. Then we can add 2 more fields, and the next 2 fields are going to be name, price. The price is going to be a field of type number. Number is the same as saying integer or double. Okay, so it's going to be of type number, and we can give it a value maybe of 5,000 just for now. We're going to create an example here. And for the field, let's the next field is going to be description, and the description is going to be a text. So maybe nice car maybe as an example. And now click save. Once we click save, we will generate the collection. We will create the collection and the document inside the collection. So we have created this manually from Firebase, but this is not the way to do it. The way we want to do it is that we want the user to be able to generate this data, but from the application. So let's delete this document and see how we would do it from the application. Okay, let's go to here above the documents, here in these 3 dots. Let's click here and select delete collection. To delete the collection, you have to type in the name of the collection. So type in products, just the way you wrote it, okay, just like this. And now let's click on delete. This will delete our collection and leave our database empty. Let's go back to the project in Flutterflow. And here we're gonna tell Flutterflow that we want to create a collection of type products with the fields that we have mentioned earlier in Firebase. So let's go here to where it says Firestore database. Okay, this is the database over here in the sidebar, in the left sidebar. Let's click this icon that looks like a database. And in here we can create a collection. So let's go ahead and create a collection. The collection name is going to be products. Products, make sure you spell it right, products. Okay, now it's asking us if we want to make it a sub collection. We're not gonna work with sub collections for now. So let's just, let's just hit create. So create, and now we can add in fields to the products collection. So let's click on start from scratch, and let's add in the name. The name wanted to be, we said that we wanted it to be a string. Let's click this green check mark to add it. So now we have the name. Let's add in the price. For the price, it's going to be an integer. Here we can choose between integer and double. So let's choose integer. It's going to be an integer. Let's click the green check mark. And now the description. For the description is going to be also a string. And now let's click the green check mark. Okay, so now we have told Flutterflow that we want to create a products collection, okay, and that we want to have the ability to create a products collection with the fields of name, price, description. Perfect. Now we need a way. We need a way to create this data, but from this app. So let's go to the widget tree. And first of all, let's change the text of the app bar to maybe the name of the app. So product list, maybe. Okay. And now we have to give the user a way for the user so that the user can create this. So one way we can do this is maybe with 3 text fields, maybe, right? The first text field for the name, the second for the price, and the third for the column, for the description, sorry. And with a button maybe that says create product, right? So let's go ahead and create a column inside the main column. So let's select the main column and let's click on add child and add in another column. Let's name this column to something different so that we can know what we're talking about. And to do this, select the child column and go here to the properties panel at the top. Let's change this column name for maybe product, maybe create product. Okay, let's click the check mark. And now let's just center this column. You know how to do it, but let's do it, okay? Let's click the parent column and let's go and center the child and align it to the center. So we have the children here at the center. Let's click on the child column and let's add in what we said, okay? So we're gonna add a text field. So set the text field like this. Then maybe let's give it a padding of 16 at the bottom so it has some space between each text field, right? So a padding to the bottom. And now let's change the label here the label text for maybe name here like this, maybe. So the user knows that he or she has to type in here the name. Okay, so now let's go ahead and duplicate the text field. To that, select it on the widget tree, right click and hit duplicate. And let's do it again, duplicate, and let's click on duplicate. So we have 3 text fields. So for the next one, let's change the label here let's change the label, the name here. Let's change it for maybe a price here, right? I'm just making sure that I give hints to the user so the user knows what to type in here. And then for the next one, let's just type in maybe description, right? Description here. And now we have to add a button, and so that we can later give it an action. And when the user clicks this button down here, we will create the product here inside this database, okay? So let's add in the button to the column. Let's look for, okay, here we have the button. And now let's set the width of the button to infinity so it covers as maximum as possible on the x-axis, on the horizontal axis. And let's go ahead here to this property where it says width and set it to infinity. And now one thing that we can do is that to give it some space between the widgets and the scaffold, we can add in some padding to the main column. So let's select the main column. And for the padding, let's lock over here and set it to 16. So we give it a little bit of space. And now the only thing that we have to do is that we need to add an action to the button. So let's click the button. And first of all, let's change the text of the button to maybe create a product. Okay, something like that. And now let's go ahead and add an action. So click here on actions and now add action. We want to go down and we want to set it to on tab. And let's go to the field where it says backend database. And let's toggle this. Let's show the options, okay? So for the backend database, let's click where it says Firestore because we're gonna work with the database. And we said that the name of the database is called Firestore. So let's click here on Firestore. And let's click where it says create document because we want to create a document inside of here, right? We want to create a document inside the products collection. So let's click on create document. And now for the create document, let's choose the collection. So we want to choose the collection products. We can choose this collection because we created it here inside the Flutterflow. And now let's add fields. Here we can see that we can add the fields that we created, the name, price, and description. So for the name, we want it to be whatever the user inputs here. For the price, we want it to be whatever the user inputs here, and for the description, whatever the user inputs in the third text field. Okay, so let's set this. So for the name, we're gonna get the value from a variable, and we're gonna set this variable to be equal to the widget state. Inside the widget state, text field number 1. Okay, then let's do the same thing for the other options. So for the price, we're gonna set it from variable and set widget state and text field number 2, and for the description, let's set it from variable and text field number 3. Okay, so now we have everything set up. If we go ahead and run this application, everything should work. So let's try and figure out if this works. Okay, so let's go up here and hit on the Thunderbolt, and this will open the new view while our project will load. We'll have to wait a little bit. Okay, so now our app is running in test mode. Okay, so now we are gonna type in a name here. For example, let's type in wallet. Let's set the price to maybe 50 and the description maybe to leather. Now let's click on create product and we see that nothing happens here. Okay, apparently this is because we haven't told Flutterflow that we want to show things here. But if we go to our database, let's go back to our project in Firebase. Let's refresh the page, okay, from the refresh button. And now we can see that we have created the products collection and a document inside, right? The wallet with the price of 50 and the description of leather. So we have successfully created a product. If we go ahead and try to create another product, for example, let's type in laptop and maybe 2500, and maybe let's type in maybe let's type in super laptop. I don't know. I'm just making it up. Let's hit on create product. And now we go back again, we can see that in real time, we have created the other document, okay? So with the description, the name and price. Perfect, so this is gonna be for this video. In the next video, we'll see how we can display some information here on the homepage. Okay, so now you can see that our application has loaded, and we can see very clearly that we have here the names of each of the documents, right? We have the laptop and the wallet. If we click on detail, nothing happens because we haven't set an action to this button, so nothing is going to happen. So this works perfectly fine. If I add in another product, for example, let's add in, I don't know, for example, let's add in a phone, for example, and the price for the phone is going to be 600, and then the description is going to be maybe, I don't know, and let's make it an Apple phone. And here we can see that the phone gets added to the list, okay? The only thing that you need to take into account is that when we add a product, the product does not always get added at the bottom of the list. It could get added maybe in the middle. This is because these documents here in the Firebase are not ordered, okay? They are not ordered. But when we want to get access to this information, we can order or filter it, okay? We have the option to order or filter in Flutterflow, okay? So now we go back to the products list. We can see that everything is done. So now in the next video, we'll see how we can update this information, how we can actually transfer the information from this product list to the next page, okay, to another page. So we will see that in the next video. All right, so let's see how we can transfer the data from this page, from the products list page to another page that we will call maybe product detail. So the idea is that when the user presses this button, they will get directed to another page called product detail. And in that page, we will be able to see the name, the price, and description of the product. Okay, so first of all, we need to create a new page. So let's go ahead to here to the left. And here we can see above the widget tree, we can see the pages, right? We have only one page right now, home page. So to add another page, we can go here up here, and here we can see this orange icon. It says new page. So let's click on that icon. And now we can create a new page from our template. We're going to create a blank page. So click on create blank page, and we need a name. So let's call this name product and detail, like this, right? Product detail maybe, and then create page. So now we have our new page here. We can see it here in our pages that we have a new page. And let's change the text of the app bar to maybe product detail, like so. Okay, so now we have our product detail. Now what we want is to display the information here. So let's go ahead and think how we would do this. Let's first add in the text, maybe a text for the name, a text for the person, text for the description. So let's select the column, add in another column as a child. So we have things organized. Let's center everything. So select the main column, align to the center, and align to the center, the main axis, and then select the second column. And maybe we can have, we can rename this second column to maybe something different. So let's go ahead and rename this second, the child column, let's rename it maybe to product info, maybe. Something like this. So this way we can differentiate between the main column and the child column, right? So now inside the child column, let's add in children. So we will add a text. Let's change the font size of this text maybe to 20 and add some spacing, some padding at the bottom, 16 maybe, so we have a space between each text. And now let's right click on the text and duplicate it, or you can press Ctrl D to make 3 texts like this. And now this is going good, but now this page doesn't know anything about this collection. It doesn't know anything about this. But in the home page, if we go back to the home page here by selecting the home page, if we go back to the home page, we can see that here our list view has a backend query, okay? So our list view got a reference to this whole list of documents, right? And each of the children of the list view has access to one of the documents, right? So the first copy of the child has access to one document, the second another one, the third another one. That's why here in our running application, we can see that the first copy has access to the first document, and it gets the name of laptop, the other one to get the name of wallet, and the other one gets the name of phone. So we want to get this reference that this child is getting, and we want to pass this reference that the child is getting to the product detail page. And we're going to do this by setting the action of the detail. But before doing that, before setting this action, we need to somehow tell this product detail page, we need to say, okay, we're expecting to get a reference from a document, right? And how do we do this? First of all, let's make sure you're in the product detail page. Select the scaffold. Make sure you are selecting the scaffold, because if you select another widget, you're not gonna see it here on the right. So make sure you select the scaffold here on the left. And here on the right, you can see an option that says page parameters. So we're gonna click this add icon to add a parameter, and let's add a parameter. We can call anything we want. We can call our parameter anything we want. I'm gonna call it just to make sure I know it. It's gonna be a product. It's gonna product document ref for reference. Okay, so we're gonna get a product document reference. It says the parameter name must be camel case. That means that it should start with a with a lowercase letter. So product document reference. Okay, so this is gonna be the name of our parameter. And what is the type? What type of value will our parameter hold? So let's display this. It can be an integer, a double. So are we gonna pass an integer? No. Are we gonna pass a double? No. We're gonna pass in a document reference. So we're gonna pass in a variable of type document reference. And from what collection? From the collection of products. So we're gonna this what we're saying here with this parameter is that we are telling this parameter, hey, we're expecting that when the user navigates to this page, it passes a document reference, a product document reference. So let's just click confirm. So now this page has this parameter, so it's waiting for the value. Okay, that means that it's waiting for the value. Let's go to the home page now, and let's click on the detail button. And now let's set an action. Okay, we will set an action for this detail button, and add an action. And we want that on top. We just want the only thing that we want to do is that we want to navigate. Okay, so let's click here on the navigation, navigate to product detail. And now you can see that we have defined the action, but now you can see that here we have an error here. We have a project issue here at the top. Here at the top is where we will see our warnings and our issues. Warnings are not fatal, but the red ones, the issues are fatal. So if you want to run your app, you have to get rid of these errors, okay? So here it says, required parameter product document ref is not set on button action. That means that the page, the product detail is expecting a parameter, but we are not passing it from here. We are not passing it yet. We need to specify here this at the bottom where it says parameter and it says pass. Select a parameter to pass to product detail. Okay, so let's click here where it says pass. And here it says that we want to pass a parameter named product document ref. This is going to be the name, but let's just click this arrow to select the actual parameter that we want to pass. So the name of the parameter is going to be product document ref, and we want to set the value. So let's click on set to set the value. And we want to pass in, we know that the child has access to the product document reference. So let's click here, and it has access to the name, the price, description. It also has the reference itself. So since our destination page is expecting a reference, we cannot pass in the name, the price, or description because it's expecting a reference. It's expecting a parameter of type reference, of type document reference, not of type integer or text. So let's just select that we want to pass in the reference of the product. And let's click on confirm. So we're passing the reference of the product. And why do we want to pass the reference of the product? You're going to see in a minute. Okay, so we're passing the reference of the product. So now everything is set. Now let's go back to the product detail page. And now in here, why do we pass the reference of the product to this page? Because now this page is like, hey, I have the reference to the product. I have the reference to the document. And this column is going to say, okay, I want to query that reference because I want my children to have access to the values. So now the column is going to be like, hey, I want to have access to that reference that the page has. So now how do we do this? We select the column and we go here to the backend query, and we're going to add in a query, but this query is not going to be to this database because we already did that in the home page. This query is going to be to the reference that this page has. Okay, so now to that, let's select the column, the product info column, and let's add in a backend query, and the type is not going to be a query collection, but a document from reference. We're going to query the document from reference. And for the reference, it's going to be a type products of the collection of products. And now here, if we click on set, we can see that we have the option to get the reference that we're passing it to this page. Okay, so this is the reference that we're passing to the page, the parameter that we actually define. So we are getting the product document ref. This is the name of the parameter, and this is the value. We're getting the product's ref. We're getting the reference to the products. Okay, so let's click here and let's click confirm. So we're getting the reference. So now you can see that here we see this database icon, this orange database icon. That means that we're making the query of the reference. So now why all of this? Why are we doing all of this? Because now we can select the text, the first text, and we can select the value of the text by clicking this orange icon here on the text property. And now we have access to here we have the product document reference because the parent. So we also have access to the reference, but now we don't want the reference because the parent column already has access to the reference. We want to have access to the data of that product document. So let's click here and let's click the name. And for the second text, let's go ahead and let's select the price and confirm. And for the third text, let's go ahead and set it and select the parameter to be the text value to be the description. So now, so basically, I hope you got how the logic works. Here we query the database. This is getting access to the document reference, right? We're passing when we click this button and we go to the next page. This we are also passing the document reference that this child got to the next page. So basically, what this child has, we're passing it the reference. We're passing it, but only the reference. We're not passing the name. We're passing the reference. And now here in the product detail, the column is getting access to the reference, and now the first text is getting access to the name of that reference. The second to the price of that reference, and the third to the description of that reference. Okay. So now we go ahead and try this out. It should work. So let's just instant reload. And we should see that this works. So now if we click on detail, you can see that now it says laptop 2500 super laptop. Now we don't have a way to go back. So one thing that we can do, let's go back to project in Flutterflow, and let's select this app bar and click this icon next to the app bar. And now we can select this third app bar that has the option to go back. So now let's close this. And now if we go ahead to a running app and hit on instant reload, we will see that we are able to also go back to the previous page. Okay. So let's go ahead, because we want to go back to the previous page, to this page, so that we can keep testing. Okay, so for the wallet, we can see wallet 50 leather. We can go back, and now we can select the phone 600 Apple, perfect. So we have access to all the products, to the products details. Okay, so for the next video, we're going to actually implement a function so that the user can update. So when the user goes here, they have the option to update this information, okay, with an update button. So let's go ahead and do that in the next video. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. So let's go to our project dashboard. And now in here, we want to have maybe 3 text fields, one for the name, one for the price, from the description, and maybe a button that says update product. So we have that. If we go ahead to the home page, we can see that we already have this, and we are going to reuse this somehow. Okay, so to do that, let's go to the widgetry and select the whole column, the create product column. Let's right click, and then let's select this. Let's click on copy, this C where it says copy. Okay, and now let's go to the product detail and select the main column, and then right click and hit on the paste, on the P, right, paste. And now we can see that we have created, we have copied the whole widget. Okay. One thing that we can do is we can add some padding to 16 maybe, so that it has some space here. So let's select the main column, and let's select the main column and go to the properties and lock this lock icon, and then say to maybe 16. And now let's go ahead and just, the only thing that we need to do is that we need to edit the action of this button. So from create product, we need to set it to update product. So to do that, let's go ahead and go to the actions button. Okay, so now let's go ahead and create the action for the update button. So let's just click on the button and go here to let's go to the actions. Okay, and in the actions, we're gonna delete this action. Okay, we can also change the action from here by clicking here on the action, but let's just delete it for now. So to delete it, just click on these 3 dots and click on delete action, remove it. And now let's just add a new action. Okay, so we want it to be on tap, and we want it to be also action from the backend database. And then here from the Firestore, let's select this Firestore, and let's select an update document. Okay, and we want to update document. Okay, so now let's click where it says unset, and now it's asking us to select the reference to update. Okay, so we want to select this product document reference. This reference, we're getting it from the page, remember, because we're passing in the reference to this page from our home page. We're passing it to this page. So let's click on product document reference, and let's hit confirm. And now that we have this, we can add fields. And here you can see that because we have access to the reference now, we can update the name, the price, and description of the document, okay, that we have access to. So now for the name, let's go ahead and change the variable. Let's click on onset, and let's select what we want. Okay, so we want to have access to so what do we want to have here? We want to actually get the name variable from the text field. Okay, so let's select that. So let's go to widget state and select the text field number 1. Then for the price, we're going to do the same. we're gonna go and set it from variable. And now for the text field number 2, so we'll go to widget state, text field number 2, and for the description, we'll do the same thing, but for the text field number 3, okay, for the widget state, text field number 3. Okay, and yeah, one thing that we have to do is to change the text of this button because now the action is different. So let's click the button, let's go to the properties, and let's go to the text, and let's just say update product. Another thing that we can do is we can give it some padding maybe between this column and this all of these text fields, right? So let's go to the properties and just set the padding to 16. All right, so we have this done. And what we want to do now is we want to actually test this, okay? So let's back here and let's just instant reload the application. And now let's go and, for example, let's select laptop. Let's go to the detail. Here we say laptop to 2500 super laptop. Let's change the laptop to maybe laptop Air maybe, and the price maybe 3000, and the description maybe super laptop Air. And now we can see that when we hit the update button, everything updates in real time. If we go to our database, we can see that everything has updated, okay? That the document has updated its values. And that's it, guys. We can do this for every single product. So it's working fine. It's working very good. In the next video, we'll see how to actually have the option to delete a product, okay? All right, so in this video, we're gonna add in the delete function, So the idea is to add in a delete button here. And when the user presses the delete button, we will get rid of everything. So let's see how we could do that. Let's go here and let's go back to the home page, and we're gonna add another button here that says delete, okay? So let's select the row. And one thing that we could do is we could have a row inside this row, and maybe inside that row have the detail and the delete, right, function. So let's select that row and inside the list view, and let's add in a new row. And maybe we could rename this row, maybe. So just to make sure we understand what it is about, let's rename it to icons, maybe. And let's set this row inside so we have a row inside the row, right? And now we want to put this detail button inside the row. So to do this, just click on the button here on the widget tree. We can make the widget tree a little bit. We can drag it so we can see everything better. Let's drag this button under this icons row. So to do this, we have to just click and drag and release when it's orange, okay? So as you can see now, the button is a little bit indented. That means that the button is a child of the row. And if we want to unparent, just wait until it's blue. And now we have unparent. So if you drag, for example, the button and you put it just below the widget that you want to make it a child of, and you wait until it's blue, you're gonna unparent. If you keep it, if you release when it's orange, you're gonna make it a child. Okay. So we want the button to be a child of the row, and let's add in another button. We can also click on this button, on this detail button, and just right click and select duplicate. So we have a duplicate, and we want this text to be in front. Okay, so just move the text in front of this row. Okay, move this in front of the row. Now we have the text first, the row, and inside this row we have the detail, and we have our delete. So one thing that we can do is we can change the color and the text of the second button, of our delete button. So let's change the text to delete. And maybe the color, let's go down, scroll down. Here you can see the field color. So let's change from primary color to maybe a red. You can choose whatever red you want. And maybe let's select the first one, the first button, and adding a padding in the properties, maybe a padding on the right to maybe 4 pixels. Okay, so now the only thing that we need to do, we need to assign an action to this delete button. So let's select the delete button. Every time you can select from here if it's easy to select from here. If not, you can go, and as I always say, you can select from the widget tree. Okay, so let's select the delete button and assign in an action. So let's get rid of this action. We can or we can also do it the other way. We can just click here where it says navigate to product detail, because we're going to change the action. So let's click here and it says on tab. We want it to be on tab, and we want it to be a backend database. So let's click on backend database. Let's click on Firestore. And instead of creating or updating, we're going to delete. So click on delete document. And now we're going to select the reference to delete. So onset, and the reference to delete is going to be a reference from the products documents, okay, that we're getting, that the list view is getting. Okay, the list view is getting these product documents. I'm gonna delete the reference. Okay, confirm. So this chat has access to our reference of a document. We can see the name of the value of the name of that reference. We can go to the details and passing the reference to another page, and then the other page will make use of that reference that we're passing, or we can just delete the reference and we'll get. And what I was saying, the video got cut off, but I was saying is that we can hit this delete key to get rid of the whole reference, okay? So let's go ahead and test this out. So let's just create a new session. If it has expired, if it hasn't expired, just hit the reload app, and that will rerun the app. Okay, so now let's test this and see if everything works fine. Let's see if the delete function works, and we can see that we can get rid of all of the products. Now we can add a new product. For example, let's add in a car. The price is gonna be maybe 5K, 5,000. It's gonna be a nice car. Okay, let's create a product. So we create a product. We can go to the detail. You can see car 5,000, nice car. We can rename it maybe to super car, and maybe the price is going to be 7,000. The description is going to be super car now. Let's update the product. Perfect. And we can go back and we can get rid of the product if we want. Okay, so this is gonna be the end for this section. I hope you learned how to manage data, how to work with data inside Firebase, and now we're ready to go ahead and work on our final challenge, which is gonna be that is going to be create a social media app in a minimalist style. See you in the next video. Okay, so now let's go ahead and start building our project for our social media app. Okay, so let's go and create a new project here. And let's type in the name of our project. So it's gonna be social app, maybe. I'm gonna call it social app. You can call it whatever you want. Click on create blank. And now it's gonna ask us to set up Firebase. In this case, we are gonna set up Firebase also. So let's go to the firebase.google.com and go to your console, and inside your console let's create a new project. So this project, I'm going to call it social app, and just click on continue. I'm not going to use the Google Analytics, so we don't have to use that to use the analytics. So just toggle them off and create the project. This is going to take a little bit. Okay, so now our project is ready. We can just click continue. And now that we're inside here, we have to, of course, as always, we need to add the permission to Flutterflow so that Flutterflow can make changes inside here. So let's go to project settings, go to user and permissions, and inside here, let's add a member. Let's add in Firebase at flutterflow.io. And for the role, we're gonna make it an editor, as we did before, and add a member. And now we have to think about the services that we want in our Firebase. So let's go to the build tab over here. And we need, first of all, the authentication. And we also need the Firestore database. So let's click on authentication. And let's just get started. Click where it says get started with authentication. And now we have to choose the provider. So we're going to choose the email and password. So we're going to allow our users to sign in with email and password. So enable that on, enable the email and password, and click save. And now we have everything set up. If we go here to users, here on top, here next to sign in method, we go here to users. We see that we have no users here right now. But once we create a user, once we register with an email, we will see that the email appears here. And another thing that we need in Firebase is the database. So let's go to the build again, and then go and select Firestore database. All right, so now just click where it says create database, and let's create it in test mode again. So test mode, next, I'm gonna choose the United States, enable. All right, so now we have our database here. It's empty, as you can see, so that's normal. Now let's go back to the project in Flutterflow. Let's click next, and it's asking for the Firebase project ID. So let's go back to Firebase. Let's go to project settings, copy the project ID under the general tab. This project ID, copy, Control C, go back to Flutterflow and paste it here, and click connect. And now just click on auto generate config files, click generate files. We're setting up the connection between Firebase and Flutterflow. Okay, perfect. So now it's asking us if we want to enable authentication. We want to, so let's toggle this on and create a users collection. Okay, so toggle this on. So what's going to happen is that when we create a user, if we go back here, we can see what's going to happen, okay? Let's go to the authentication. And when we create a user inside our Flutterflow project, we're going to get the email of the user here under the users tab. And inside the Firestore database, we're going to create, Flutterflow is going to create by default a users collection. So we're going to have our users collection and a document with the user and some fields in here, okay? So let's go back to Flutterflow, and we have to set now the initial pages. So we need to set the entry page. This is the page. This is the page where a user will go first. So maybe a login page. So let's click where it says unset. And now we have the option to create a new page. So let's just type in login maybe for the page and create blank. So login is the name that we want for the page, create page. And now for the logged in page, it's going to be like maybe the home page, right? So let's set an unset. Let's click on set, and now for the name, let's just type in feed, for example, because we want the user to go after they log in. When we want them to go to a page called feed, where the feed will be with all the posts. Create blank, we want the page to be feed, create page, and start building. Okay, so now let's go to the widget tree, and we can see our two pages, our login page and our feed page, okay? The login page is going to be the start page, and the feed page is going to be the page that they go to after the login. So one thing that we can do right away is just select the login page and select this the text in the app bar, and let's change it to login. And maybe for the, let's just give it a space in here, maybe login. And for the feed, let's change the text of the app bar to feed. Okay. So now what we can do right now is that we are going to set up the login and register, okay? So let's go back to the login page, make sure it's selected. And inside here, we have to think about what we want. We want a text field for the email, right? So that the user can input the email, maybe a text field for the password, and then a button to sign in. Maybe we also want an icon of a user so that the user knows that this is like a sign-in page, right? Maybe for user experience. So let's go and select the column. Let's align the column to the center as we always do. And now inside the column, let's add in an icon, for example, as the first element. So icon. Okay, let's make this icon 150 in size. So let's go to the properties panel and set the icon to 150. And let's just choose the icon that we want. Okay, so we want a user icon like this. Okay, so the user knows that this is something about login, right? And then let's go ahead and add in a new child to the column. So select the column, click on add child. And let's select a text field. Okay, so this text field is going to be for the email. So we can say, instead of label here, we can say email here. So let's go and find that label. Okay, and email, when I change the label to email here. Let's duplicate by right-clicking on the text field. Let's select the duplicate option. And we can add in some padding maybe between text fields. So let's maybe choose the first text field, adding maybe 16 pixels of padding. And now for the second text field, we're gonna, instead of email here, we're going to say password here, right? Password here. And one thing that we should do is change this text field from a text field to a password field, and to a password field. And we can do that by scrolling down here in the properties. And here we can see that under the additional properties, we can see a password field toggle. So we can toggle this on. And here it's asking us for an icon size. Okay, so let's set it maybe to 24 and see what happens. You can see that as soon as I type in 24 in here, we can see that an icon here appears in the password text field. Since we have converted this text field into a password text field, that means that this text field is expecting a password from the user, which means that we're gonna have the ability to show the password or to hide the password with dots. So that's why we have an icon size for the toggle hide password icon. Okay, so that's perfect. That looks perfectly fine for me. We can add some padding also to the icon. So we have some space with between the icon and the text field. So let's add in maybe 16 of padding here. That looks good. And now let's add in a final element to this page, which is the button. Okay, it's the button to sign in. Okay, we also need a little bit of padding here under this text field, under the last text field. So maybe 16 pixels of padding. And let's select the button. And for the text button, let's just type in log in like this. maybe like this. That's fine. Let's select the button and make the width of the button infinite. So go to the button default style and click this infinite sign over here. So the button expands to the edges of the screen. And now we can add in some space, some content space, some padding, sorry, to the column. So we have some space between the children of the column and the scaffold. So let's select the column and let's add in 16 pixels of padding on all sides. So let's click the lock icon. Perfect. So now we have everything a little bit with more space. Okay, so the login is working perfectly. But the thing is, if we run this app right now, nothing will work. We have to set up this login action. So we have to select the button and create an action for this login button. Okay, so let's go to the properties and let's select this actions panel, add an action, and let's go ahead and we want the action to be on tab. And let's go to the backend database field. And inside this backend database field, we want to go for Firebase authentication. Okay, so click on Firebase authentication, and here we have all the options available. We can log in, create account. We have also a phone sign in. We're not going to use this, but we also have a logout. Okay, so we're going to be using login, create account, and logout. So for this first button, let's just choose login. We have to set the auth provider. So click here and set it to email. And now we have to choose the email field. So select the text field 1. We only have one text field available because the other text field is not a text field anymore. The other text field is a password field. So as the password field, we're going to select the only password field that we have, which is the second one. Okay, so now this should work. The only thing is that if we run the application right now, since we haven't created an account, we are not going to be able to log in. So we need to create a register page account. Okay, so let's go ahead, and one thing that we can do here on the left under the pages here on top of the widget tree, we have our pages, right? We have the feed and the login. We can just right click here where it says login and duplicate page. We have the login copy now selected. Okay, so now we can go to the right and we can change the name here on the properties. We can change the name from login copy to registers, for example, register. Okay, now let's change the button text to maybe register instead of login, register. And now one thing that we would need, or that it's useful to have, is to have a confirm password field. Okay, so that if the user is creating a new account, they have to type in the password twice to then confirm that the password that they put in is the right password that they want. Okay, so we're gonna do that by clicking here in the password field, and we're gonna just duplicate it. So we can do that from the widget tree, right click and duplicate. So now we have this copy of a password. So now in this second password field, we're gonna change the password here for confirm password here. We can do that by changing the label text here on the properties panel. So confirm password here. All right, so now we only have to set the action for the register button. So let's go select the button, go to the actions tab, and then instead of auth login, we're going to click here the action to change the action. So let's click where it says auth login. Let's go down because we want the action to be on tab, and we're gonna go to the backend database, to the Firebase authentication, and this time we're gonna choose create account instead of login, create account. Okay, perfect. That's perfect. Now for the confirm password field, this is an optional field, okay? But we have set it because it's good practice. So now let's set the confirm password field to be the password field number 2. Okay, so we have one text field and 2 password fields. Okay, so now this should be working properly. So let's go ahead and run the application. But the only thing is that we have a problem, because if we run the application and we go to this login page, we're not gonna be able to sign in. But then we should go to the register page, right? But how are we gonna go there if we have no way to navigate there? So let's add in something else. Let's add in a text under this button that says already don't have an account, register now. Okay, so let's go to the column and let's add in a child to the column. It's gonna be a row that we want to add, and then for this row we can add a padding between the row and this button of maybe 52. So 52 pixels at the top. And now inside this row, we're gonna add into text. So let's add in a text inside the row, and let's add in another text. And now we want these two texts to be at the center. So let's select the row and set the main axis alignment to center. And now we want this first text, select the first text. We want to change the value of that text to don't have an account, question mark, space. And then here, the second text is going to say register now. We can make this register now a little bit different. We can go down here in the properties and set the font weight from normal to bold, for example. And let's set the color here, the text color, from black to the primary, this primary color over here, for example, just to make it different. And now we can, now what we're gonna do is that we're going to copy and paste this row also in the register. But let's set the action for the register now, okay? Let's set the action. So the action is just a very simple action. We want to navigate to the register page. So let's add the action. We want to navigate to register page. Okay, that's fine. And now we're gonna just copy. So let's go to the widget tree and with select the row, okay, and hit the right click, and we're going to just copy. So select where it says C, and then go to the register, and then go to the column, select the column, and just right click and click copy. Oh, sorry, paste. Okay, so copy and paste. So now we have that here. So in the register, instead of saying don't have an account, we're going to say already have an account. Already have an account. And instead of register now, we're going to say log in now. Okay, perfect. So now that we have that done, we only have to change the navigation here from the register page to the login. So let's go ahead and go to actions, select the login now, go to actions, and let's change this navigate to register. We're gonna change it to navigate to login. Okay, so now we should be able to register, and then we should be able to see in here, we should be able to see that the user has been added to authentication and that the user has been added to the users collection, okay? So let's go ahead and run the application. So let's go ahead and hit this Thunderbolt, okay? So this will open a new window and our application will start running. Okay, so our application has finished loading. So now let's go ahead and try this out. Let's go, maybe we can zoom out a little bit. Let's go to the register now, and here we can register. Okay, perfect. Let's try to register with an email. Let's type in, for example, j@gmail.com. Let's type in a password, maybe 123456, and then 123456, and then click register. And then perfect, we are directed to the feed page. We can see that this is the feed page, okay? So this is working properly. Okay, this is working very, very fine. So now we can, if we go to the Firebase and we refresh the page, here we will see that the user's collection has in fact been created. And we have a document which is corresponding to the user that we created, right? We have a document with the email of j@gmail.com, the created time, and the UID. This is perfect, okay? These are the default values that are created when I create a user, okay? And now everything's working fine, okay? So we have that done. This is gonna be it for this video. I'll see you in the next video. Okay, so in this video, we're gonna see how we can actually create a post, okay? So let's see how we would do that. Okay, let's go back to here. We already have our login and register set up. So now let's go to the feed, and inside the feed here we can see that actually we need a way to give the user the ability or the option to input some text, and that's gonna be the text, the message of our post, and then maybe an icon so that the user can post the information here to the feed, right? So how we're gonna add in a text field maybe and a button right to the text field. So maybe a row and maybe the text field and the button as children of that row, and that's gonna be it, okay? And it should work very properly, okay? So let's select the column and let's add in a row to the column. Okay, we can see that the row is over here. We want to set the children of the column to the center and main element center. Now for the row, let's add in a text field. Okay, we have the text field. Now let's add in an icon. Have an icon. Let's change the size of this icon to 50 here from the properties panel. Let's change the color to primary, and let's change the icon to maybe a circle. So here we have the option of this circle up, this circle. I like this circle as the post button. So okay, we have this done. Now we can add some padding maybe to the main column as always. So let's add in maybe 16 of padding to all sides like this. So we have a little bit of space. And instead of saying label here, we can change that label here to post to message here, for example. Message here. right? So it's like a message that we're writing, right, to our post. And okay, so now what we want to do is that when the user clicks this button, we want to create a document. So we want to create a user post document, but we haven't defined this user post document. So let's define this document. Where do we define this document in Flutterflow? You have to go here to the sidebar and click this database icon. And in here, we can see that by default, we have a users collection. This has been created by default by Flutterflow. So when we said that we wanted to create a users collection, this is what's being created. And now we need also a users post collection. So let's click here and let's type in user posts collection. Okay, user posts collection and create. And now let's create the fields for this user post collection. So let's add in the first field. So the first field could be the message of the post, right? The message of the post is going to be a string, and let's just click this check mark to add it. Then the next one, maybe it could be the user email, right? We could have a user email associated with a post. So to specify which user posted this message. So let's go ahead and select the data type to string also. And let's click this check mark. And then for the third field, we can have a created time field that specifies the time at which this post was created, okay? So created time. And then for the data type, this is not going to be a string. This is going to be a data type of type date time, okay? So this is the kind of type that we want, of data type that we want, okay? So the created time is going to be a date time. And let's click this check mark. So this field we want it because maybe when we display our post, we want to have maybe the user email at the top. Then we want to have the message down below a little bit. And then right at the bottom corner, at the right bottom corner, we want to have something like a moment ago or 5 minutes ago, so that all users know how long ago the post was published, okay? So let's go back. And now in here, we actually need a way to display the posts, okay? But first of all, let's see if we can create the post, okay? So let's go ahead and restart reload the application. If you don't have an open session, just create a new session, okay? As always. So now when the user writes something in here and presses this button, we should see that we generate content in here, okay? We should see that we create the post in here. So let's go ahead and write something. For example, I'm going to write something like my first post. Click here. And now we see that nothing really happens, okay? And this is because we haven't defined the action to create the document, okay? Here we see that nothing happens. This is because we have not defined the action. So let's go ahead and click on the icon. And let's go to actions and add an action to this icon. So we're going to go down to the backend database and we're going to go to Firestore. And once we are inside Firestore, we're going to select create document. And we're going to select the collection. We want to create a document of user post collection. And when it add in the field, so we're not adding the message, the user email, and the created time. So for the message, we want to have the actual input of this text field. So let's go ahead and set the value source from a variable and set it from onset to widget state text field message here. Okay, that looks good. Now for the user email, we want the user email that the user has used to authenticate with, right? So for the user email, let's go ahead and specify the value source, and we're gonna get it from a variable. And the variable is going to be we're gonna get the variable from this authenticated user. So authenticated user email, okay? So this is gonna give us the authenticated user email. And then for the created time, we're gonna just select it not from variable, but from Firestore server timestamp. So what this is doing is that when we're getting the created time, basically we're asking Firestore, hey Firestore, give us a snapshot of the time, please. And Firestore gives us a snapshot of the time, and that value is gonna get saved here in this created time field, okay? And we are done with this. Now we can go ahead and instant reload the application. And now if we write something here and we click this button, now it should work, okay? So first post. Now let's click this button and let's go ahead and refresh the page so that we can see the data. And now we can see, in fact, that we have created a users post collection. That's perfect. And inside the users post collection, we have a document, which is our post with the message, the user email, and the created time. Perfect. Now, one thing that we can fix about this is maybe the text is a little bit too small here. So let's change the text of the message here to maybe a 16 font pixel size. And then also one thing that I don't like is that when I click this button, this text remains here. So let's clear the texts after we create the document. So let's go back to Flutterflow. Let's select the text field, go down to font size, to the value font size. So where it says initial value, let's go to the font size and let's set it to 16. We can also set the label font size to 16. If we go back to the label properties, sorry, if we go down to the label properties, we can set the font size to 16 also. And then for the icon, let's click on the icon. Let's click on the action flow editor. I mean, on the actions, right? On the actions, we're on the actions tab. And now if we want to add another action that is going to be like a sequence to this action, we have to use the action flow editor. So let's open this editor and see what it is all about. If we open this editor, we can see that we have our action defined here. And if we want to add another action, we have to just click this add button and it says add action. So both of these actions will execute in a chain, okay? Like this one first and this one second. So for this one, we just want to clear the text fields. So let's just select the action, look here in the search bar for clear, and it's inside this widget UI interactions. You can see that we have the option of clear text fields. Let's choose that and let's choose the text field 1, which is the only text field that we have in this page. So now that we have everything done, we can go here and we can reload this. And now our changes should have been applied, okay? So now we should see here, okay, that this is perfect. I can say my second post, for example, click this button, and now we see that the text clears itself. And now we can go here, and now we can see that there are two documents under user posts. My second post is over here, okay? Perfect. This is looking pretty good. So this is gonna be it for this video. I'll see you in the next video. All right, so in this video, we're gonna see how we can actually show the posts, okay? So to do that, we're going to actually need a list view. So let's go ahead and create that. So under column, let's add in a list view. Okay, let's add in the list view and let's drag the list view up above the row. And now let's go ahead in the properties and set it to expansion, to expand, so that we expand the list view and it covers all the space. Let's go ahead and select the row and add maybe some padding on the bottom, maybe 32 pixels, okay? So there's a little bit of space. And inside this list view, we want to have a child, we want to define a child of the list view. And then we're going to make, after doing that, we're going to have the list view make a query. So the list view is going to request information from this application, and the list view is going to get the list of documents. And each child of the list view is going to have access to a document, and it's going to show the message, the email, and the date, okay, and the time that this post was created. So let's go ahead and think about how we want to define or how we want to create our posts. So let's click the list view and let's add in a container, because we want our post information to be inside a container. Okay, so we want the container to be a little bit bigger. One thing we're going to do is we're going to zoom in a little bit so that we can see what we're doing better. So we actually want to change the size of the container. I want to change the height. So select the container, go here in the properties and scroll down until you see height. And let's change the height from 100 to 150. Okay, looking good. Now inside the container, I want a row, and inside this row, I want two columns. The first column is going to be maybe for an icon, a heart icon to give a like to the post and a counter maybe. And the second column is going to occupy all the available space, and inside that column we're gonna have rows with texts, and the texts are gonna be the email of the user, the message, and the date and the time. Okay, so you will see why I'm putting the text inside rows when later on. Okay, so let's go ahead and first of all let's do it little by little. And because we're gonna be adding lots of widgets inside, let's rename each widget to something that we can understand. So it's gonna be better for us, okay, to figure out what we're doing and where we are working on. Okay, so the container, select the container, and let's change the container name to maybe user post. So now this container name is user post. Then let's add a column inside a row inside the container. So now we have a row inside the container. Let's rename this row also to user post. So we know that the container and the row are making reference to the whole user post, right? And now inside the user post, let's add in a column. And this first column, we're gonna rename it to like button, for example, or like icon. You can call it whatever you want. Just to know that this is gonna be the column that we're gonna reserve for the like icon, okay? And now we're gonna add in another column to the user post row. And this other column, we're gonna rename it to post info. Okay, so this is gonna be the post info. This is gonna be the info. Let's change the P to lowercase just to be consistent. And this is going to be basically the where we're gonna put all the information. But now we don't want the column like this. We want it expanded. So let's expand it here in the properties. And now we can see that we have our post info column here and our like icon. For the moment, we're gonna forget about this like icon column, and we're gonna focus on the post info column. Inside this column, we're gonna add in some rows. So let's add in a row inside the column. And this row, we're gonna rename it. This first row, we're gonna rename that to maybe user email, because here we're gonna display the user email. Let's now one thing that we can do. Well, first of all, let's add in a text to this user email, and now we can just duplicate the user email row. So right click and duplicate, and we're gonna do it 2 times. So we have three rows with 3 texts inside. Okay, so maybe let's just change the text of the user email just to see what we have. Okay, so in the first text is going to be the email. Then let's select the second user email row, and let's change the name from user email to maybe a message. And let's change the text also to say message, the text of the text widget. And for the third row, let's change the name of the row to say maybe time. And then let's change the text to time. Okay, just to see what we have here in a better way. Okay, so we have a row, we have 3 rows and the 3 texts. Okay, so now one thing, why am I doing this? Because now I can select the post info column. See, this is why it's important to name the widgets, because I can make reference to them by their name. The post info column. See, now that you don't have to see column and say, oh, which one do I have to choose? Now you can say, oh, the post info column, and now you know what you're talking about. So we're gonna select the post info column. We're gonna go down and we're gonna set the children. So the main text alignment, we're gonna set it to be space between. So now we see that we have kind of what we want, okay? Because we want the email to be over here, or that this is my idea, okay? You can do it however you want, but I want the email to be over here this time. So this, I'm gonna rename it to time. This text, I wanna have it maybe over here at the right, the bottom right, the email at the top left, and the message a little bit upwards towards the email. Okay, maybe closer to the email than to time, but more or less at the same level. Okay, at the same level in a vertical way to the email. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. So let's select the email text and let's add in some padding to the left, maybe of 8 pixels. And now we should also add a little bit of padding on the top of the email, but I'm not gonna add it from here. I'm gonna add it to the row that contains the email. And why the row and not the email text? Because let's say that later on you want to add some more elements inside this row, maybe some icons, for example. Then if you adding padding to the email, what's going to happen is that if you add some other elements, they're not going to be aligned with the email. Okay, they're not going to be aligned because the email has padding on top. But if you add in the padding to the whole row, then when you add in elements inside this row, then they're all gonna be aligned to each other. Okay, so we want that to happen. So let's select the user email row and add 8 pixels of padding to the top. Now for the text, we are only gonna select the message text, and just add padding maybe on the left of 8 pixels like this. So the message is aligned with the email on the vertical axis. And now let's select the row that contains the time text, and let's set the children to be at the end, like this. So now this is why we added rows, because now we can play around with the children inside the row. And now let's just select the time and set the padding on the right, maybe to 8. And now let's select the row that contains this text and set the bottom padding to 8, okay? Like this. So now we have the time over here. That this is looking very good. Now, one thing that I want to do is I want to change the color of this container because this is actually white. I want to change it to a different color. So let's select the user post container and let's change the color. So I have a color over here. You can copy it. So I'm gonna just copy this and paste it, and you can pause the video and copy it if you want. So I'm gonna just paste it here. Let me find the color of the user post and see where it is. So the field color, this is the field color. I want to change it to, in this is the hex value. So I can change the hex value to this value. Okay, so the color that I picked is AEE. So it's hash code AEE9E9E9. Okay, use color. I'm gonna use that color. Okay, and now we have all that done. Okay, perfect. Now we need to actually okay, let me do one more thing. Let me change the border radius of the content of the container. So here in the properties we says border radius, let's give it 8. So what this is going to do is going to round the borders a little bit. Okay, so it looks nicer. And now we have to actually make the query. So we need to get access to this list of documents. Okay, so to get access to the list of documents, let's select the list view, and just like we did in other apps, let's go ahead and select the backend query and add a backend query. Okay, we want the backend query to be a query collection. The collection we want to be user posts. We want the list of documents. When I hit confirm, and it says this is gonna generate a backend query. This is saying we're gonna generate children in accordance to this list. Okay, so hit confirm, and now one thing that we can do, if we zoom out, if we run this application, each post is gonna be right next to the other. So we want a little bit of space between the posts. So let's select the user post and adding a padding maybe at the bottom of 16, so they are separate between each other. There's a separation. Okay, so now the only thing that we need to do is we need to actually, let's zoom in a little bit, is actually just set this text to the actual values in here. Okay, so let's set the email, and let's set the value here from the text property by clicking the orange icon. Let's set it to the user post document user email. Okay, let's set the message to the user post document message, and let's set the time to the user post document created time. Okay, and for the time we want to format the time. Okay, because if we don't format the time, you know what's going to happen. We're gonna get, if we go back to our Firebase, we're gonna get this value. Okay, this value the user doesn't understand this. Okay, this is very complex, or it's very difficult to read. I mean, you can understand it, but it's very difficult to read. We're gonna format it so it appears in a simpler format. Okay, so to do this, we're here. So we're gonna select the available options to format. So we're gonna choose the date time format, and for the date time format, we're gonna click on onset, and we're gonna choose relative a moment ago. And now we should add in a default value for the default value, and we're gonna leave it blank, and we're gonna see what happens, and then you're gonna understand why we need a default value. But we're gonna leave it blank just to see what happens. Okay, so confirm. So now we have all the values set. Now we try to run this application. Everything should work fine. So let's go ahead and, okay, my session has expired. So just create a new session if it has expired. Okay, so now the application has loaded. We're gonna check if everything works fine. One thing that I don't like is that it is by default the dark mode, and I don't wanna see the dark mode anymore. I wanna see the light mode for this application. I wanna have the application in light mode, so I'm gonna go back to the project, and I'm gonna go here to the sidebar and click here in these settings and integrations here at the bottom of the sidebar. Oh, sorry, not settings and integrations, sorry, the theme settings, yeah. And let's go to colors, and let's go and just toggle the dark mode theme off. Okay, make sure it's off, and now let's go back to not to this one, but to the session that you have opened, and let's click on instant reload. And now we should see that everything is in light mode. Okay, so now we can see that everything is in light mode. Everything looks very, very nice. Let's see if this works. Okay, let's try to add in maybe a third message. Maybe let's type in maybe I am Jay, for example. And now we can see that we get an error, and then we see the post over here. Okay, so apparently everything works, but just for like a second, we see like there's like an error. There's like a red screen, and we don't like that because we don't like errors, right? We need to solve errors. So what is really going on here? Okay, so to be brief about this and to explain it in a way that you can understand it, what's happening is that, let's go back to Flutterflow. So when we are here, this variable, this text over here, we are retrieving what this text is trying to access is this created time value. Okay, but the thing is that when we click when we click this icon, the icon to create a document, we're telling let's see what we do. Okay, when we click this icon, we're telling basically here in the created time, we're telling the Firestore server that we want a snapshot of the time. And this takes time, guys, okay? This takes like maybe half a second or maybe a second or half a second. I don't know how long the screen was for, how much time the screen was on, like the red screen was on, but this takes time. So what happens is that the time maybe takes like a second for the Firestore server to get the snapshot and send it here so that we get the actual time. And in that time, this value is equal to nothing. It's equal to null. It's what we call in programming as a null value because it's equal to nothing. So basically, for 1 second, this variable over here is trying to access a variable that has no value. So for 1 second, it gives us an error. And then when this is set to the value, then here, this text actually, everything works again, right? Everything works again and we get the post. So how can we fix this? It's very easy to fix once you know what's going on wrong. Okay, you select the time, this text, select the value, and we're gonna give it a default value. So the default value is gonna be to be a moment ago. This means that we're going to give it a default value of a moment ago. This means, let's hit confirm. So this means that when we run the application, this is gonna work. We're gonna receive a moment ago because at first, for half a second, this value is equal to nothing. So this is going to be equal to a moment ago by default. And then when we have the actual value, then this is gonna the actual value is gonna override this one, and it's also gonna show a moment ago because the first value that a post gets is a moment ago. Okay. So now we can reload the application and we can test if this works properly or not. Okay, so let's type in maybe I am Joseph, for example. And now we can see that I am Joseph, it has been created. But there's a problem here. This is not the way we want it. We want the most recent post to be at the top and we want the oldest post to be at the bottom. How can we achieve this? Very easy. Let's go back to the project and let's try to, let's go to the list view because let's go to where we're making the query. Let's go and edit the backend query. And in here, if we scroll down, we can see that we can filter this query or we can order. In this case, we want to order by. So order by, click on order by, set the collection field name to created time. We want to order by created time. I want to select this where it says increasing. I want to select decreasing. So by selecting decreasing, we're actually getting the most recent post at the very top and the oldest post at the very bottom. Okay. If we chose increasing, it would do the opposite. We would get the oldest post at the very top and the most recent at the very bottom. So confirm, and now we can go back and instant reload the application, and now this should work perfectly. Perfect. Okay, now we write in a new post. For example, I'm gonna write some random text. I'm gonna put it here, and now you can see that it doesn't work. This is not because it hasn't worked. This is because sometimes it doesn't get it because of the instant reload. Okay, it doesn't quite get it. Let's see. Let's. Sometimes you have to instant reload 2 times. Okay, to see the effects. And now we can see that everything is going as expected. A moment ago, a minute ago, 4 minutes ago, 19 minutes ago, 21 minutes ago. Perfect. Now we're getting the values in the right order. Okay. So now this is done, and this is gonna be it for this video. I'll see you in the next video. Okay, so now let's go ahead and create the like functionality so that any user that logs into the app and see the posts, is actually able to like the post. And here we can also see maybe a counter for how many likes the post gets. Okay, so to do that, let's go ahead and go to Flutterflow, the project view. And one thing that we can do before doing the likes, we can actually edit a little bit the message, because in here we can see that it's not as prominent as we wanted. So maybe we can do it maybe size 20 and bold, okay? But this is just personal preference. So let's change the message, the text message, maybe let's change it to maybe, I don't know, maybe 16. And then also let's make it bold. All right, so maybe that this way we can see the message in a little bit. It's more like highlighted. Okay, so now let's work on our like icon column. This is, guys, why it's so important to name everything, because now we can work on what we actually want to work on. Okay, and if we didn't know how to choose it from here, we could also choose it here from the widget tree. Okay, so inside the like icon, we're gonna add in an icon, and this icon is going to be a toggle icon, not an icon. So, it's going to be a toggle icon. Okay, so let's choose the toggle icon. And we're also going to add a text, and the text is for the counter. So now we have a toggle icon and a text. Okay, we want to center these items. We can zoom in just to make sure everything is okay. We can select the like icon column, and let's set the children to center like this. Let's change the text of hello world just to imagine how it would look like. Okay, okay, let's change it to 0. Let's make it maybe 16 in size, and let's make it bold, so that we can see the counter in a good way. And let's change the toggle icon to be maybe a heart. So click on the toggle icon here in the properties panel, go down, and you can see here a property called on icon and off icon. So you can have an icon so to display when the user presses this button, and an icon to display when the user presses again this button. Okay, so it's for the toggle. So for the first, we're gonna choose the heart icon. I'm gonna choose the one that is filled. So this is for when the icon is on, and for the icon is off, we're gonna choose the heart, but the outline heart. Okay, so now that we have this done, let's just change the primary color of the icon from this blue, this primary purple, to the red. And if you want to see how it looks like, you have this value that says display value in UI builder. If you toggle this on, you can see how the heart would look like, and it looks very good. Okay, so now one thing that we can do is select the like icon column and give a little bit of space here on the right and left. Let's give it maybe a padding of 8 on the right and padding of 8 on the left, so it gets a little bit more space. And maybe also the message, we can put the message maybe, okay, this is different. Okay, but the message, we can make it a little bit upwards. We can set the message, but this is just personal preference. Okay, guys, here we can play around as much as you want with the UI. But if you select the row that contains the message, we can add in maybe a little bit of padding, 20, for example, 20 pixels. Maybe align it with the heart, maybe 23, maybe something like that, or 20. Yeah, maybe 20 pixels is fine. 20 pixels looks good. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to actually implement this logic, right? So what we have to think always what we want to do, right? So when the user enters the app and the user toggles this icon, we want to actually we want to actually we want to create a logic so that this post knows when the users has liked this post, right? I mean, we want to make it so if the user, for example, with an email of j@gmail.com enters, this post is going to check, okay, is that user email inside my, for example, a list of likes? And if it's in a list of likes, and this list of likes is gonna have strings, okay, this list of likes that I'm talking about, that I'm thinking about, because we haven't made anything, but I'm thinking about this list of likes, is going to have text, right? So it's gonna be a list of texts. And if our email is in those texts, then maybe this could be on, right? So that's like a way to figure out if this should be on or off. And if our email is not inside, if the authenticated user email is not inside this list, then this could show off as this could be off, right? So how can we implement this? First of all, let's create this list of likes that I'm talking about and see if this would work, okay? So let's go here to the sidebar, to the Firestore database, and select the user post, and let's create this likes field. So let's call it likes. The data type is going to be a string, and this is going to be a list. So let's click this green check mark. Okay, so now we have the likes list. It's going to be a list of texts. Okay, just like we had in our notes app. Okay, this is going to be a field. Now let's go back to the widget tree, and let's select this toggle icon. Okay, so if you scroll down here in the properties, you see that we have here a toggle value. So inside this toggle value, what we're going to do is we're going to define the logic so that this icon knows if it should show itself as filled or empty. So let's click on the toggle value property, and let's select this user post document. And inside this user post document, now we have this likes field, and we want to check if this likes field. So let's click the likes field. We want to check if the likes field has the authenticated user email. So let's click on available options. So which one are we going to choose? Maybe this one, right? That says list contains item. So we're going to check. So this toggle icon is going to check if the likes, if in the likes list is our authenticated user email. If it is, then it's going to be red. If it isn't, then it's going to be like this, outline only. So let's click on unset and let's look for authenticated user email. See, here we have the condition. If the likes list contains the email of the user that has authenticated in the app, then this is going to be red. If not, it's going to be outlined. Confirm. So now we have this action. But the good thing about this toggle value is that apart from checking this, because it's checking this, we have defined it. Okay, so it's going to check it. So when the user logs in for the first time, this is going to be outlined because at first my email is not going to be inside the likes list. But if you hover over here in the eye, it sets the toggle value from the selected Firestore field, which we have already established, and also creates an action setting the Firestore field once the widget is toggled. Okay, so if we translate this into plain English, what does this mean? This means that if we are not in the list and we toggle this icon on, our email is gonna get added to the list, like by some kind of magic. It's gonna get added to the list. So this is doing two things. This condition is doing two things. First is checking for the condition if we are in the list, and if we're not in the list, then it's gonna, if we do click here on this icon, on this toggle icon, this is gonna turn red, and because it's gonna add, this is gonna turn red because it's going to add by default. It's gonna add it's gonna create an action also to add our email to the list. Okay, so it's gonna do both things. So with that, if we now test the app, it should work. So let's instant reload. And now if I toggle this icon, it should turn red, but it's going to turn red because because the Flutterflow is gonna add my email to the list, to the likes list. So you can see that it turned red. And how can we be so sure that our email has been added to the list? We can go back to the Firebase project, and now we can look for the post. And here we can see that this post, this SDFDSF that has this message, now we can see that it has the likes property and it has added the email, our email. Okay, so it is working. But now we have one thing that it's not working, it's the counter. So to set this, it's very easy. We have to set the counter, this text, equal to the number of emails that we have in the likes. Okay, so now we have no emails because I have toggled it off, but let's toggle it on again. And now we should see that we should understand that we need to give it that the value of the number of items. So if we have 4 emails in here, that counter should be equal to 4. If we have 2 emails, it should be equal to 2. If we have 1 email, it should be equal to 1. So now let's go ahead and select the text here, and let's set the value of the text here by clicking the orange icon to the user's post document likes list, but we're gonna select the property, sorry, not the property, but the available option to number of items. So, and as the default variable, we can set it to 0 if you want. So this is going to be equal to the number of items. Okay, so confirm. So what's going to happen is that when we click this, our email is going to be added to the list, and this is going to display 1 because there's 1 item in the list. Okay, let's just instant reload the application. And now we should see that a 1 appears below the heart. Okay, perfect. And we get the 1 below the heart. So now this is working fine. If we created another user, and you can test it out if you want. If we create another user and try to sign in, then we would be able to see, maybe we could have maybe here a 2 because there are 2 users. But one thing that I don't see here is a way for us to log out. So let's do that. Let's create a way for us to log out. So to log out, we need a button here maybe that says that allows us to log out. So let's do that really quickly. Let's select the app bar, and let's just click this button which says open a floating widget palette. And inside here, we're gonna look for icon. We're gonna drag the icon onto the actions here. So make sure it's green here. So you can see that when we drag it here, the leading title and actions appear. So let's just drag it here where it says the actions. And now let's adding a padding here, maybe of 16. Let's zoom in to see everything better. And now let's change the icon size maybe to 32. Let's change the color to white of the icon, and let's change the icon to maybe a log out like this. And now let's add an action to this icon. So go to the actions tab, add an action, and we're gonna set an action. So let's go down to the backend database. Let's go to Firestore, and let's not to Firestore, sorry, to Firebase authentication, and let's select logout. Perfect. Now we go back to the running application. We hit instant reload. We should be able to log out. Okay, if we click here, we can log out. Perfect. So this is gonna be it for this video. I'll see you in the next video. All right, so now what we're gonna do in this video, we're going to actually create a page that is called My Posts. And in this page, we should only be able to see the post that of the authenticated user. So let's imagine that here we have different posts from different users. If we go to My Posts, we should only see our own posts, okay? Because later on, we're gonna add the options to delete the post and edit the post. So we don't want to be able to edit and delete posts of other people, only of our user. Okay. So to do that, let's go ahead and here to the left to the pages, and here we have our 3 pages. We're gonna create another page called My Posts. So to do that, go up here to this orange icon where it says New Page, and let's create a My Posts page. So My Posts, and let's create it blank because we're gonna create it from scratch. My Posts create page. Okay, one thing that we can do is straight away change the text of the app bar to My Posts, so we know more about this page. We know exactly which page we're on. And now let's think about what we need. Okay, so what we need basically is a list view, and we already have the list view here in the feed. We want a list view like this one that shows the user posts, but we're gonna filter the user posts and we're gonna add in a condition. So we're gonna do more or less the same thing, but with a condition, with a filtering condition. And this filtering condition is gonna check whether or not the email of the user email of the post is equal to the authenticated user email. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So in My Posts, first of all, let's just copy the list view. So let's right click and copy this widget, this whole widget, by clicking this C, copy. And let's go then to My Posts, and let's select the column and select the posts. Right click on the column, sorry, and then just hit click paste. And now we have our list view here. So now just select the column and let's just center everything. Center align the children to the. Okay, I think it's okay like this. Yeah, but yeah, because in this case, it doesn't really matter if we center the children or not, but because the list view is occupying all of the space available. So let's just add in some padding on all sides, 16 maybe. Okay, 16 pixels. Okay, perfect. So now if we leave it like this, we're gonna get all of the posts, but we're going to add the condition. So inside the column, let's select the list view. Let's go to the backend query. So here at the in the backend query tab, and let's edit the backend query. And we're gonna edit the backend query because we're getting the user post list of documents, and we're getting the post ordered. We want them ordered and want them filtered also. So let's add in the filter, the collection field name. So we're gonna check if the user email and then the relation is gonna be equal to. So let's click on here, equal to. So if the user email of the post is equal to, and the value is this value is going to be the authenticated user email. So authenticated user email. If the user email of the post is equal to the authenticated user email, so confirm. This is gonna get us the posts that are actually from the authenticated user. Okay, so to try this out, before trying this out, we need a way to go to this posts page, okay? Because right now we have no way to get here. So let's select the feed, and one thing that we could do is we could add an action here that allows us to navigate to the user posts. But I'm gonna show you a different way. Before doing this, let's just check really quickly. Here at the top we have a project issue, okay? And let's just click on it to see what it says, okay? Remember that if we have warnings, we can run our application, okay? But if we have errors, Flutterflow is not going to allow us to run the application or build it. So we need to get rid of this error. So let's say what it says. It says, Firebase indexes not properly deployed for your project. Tap on settings to view deployment options. Okay, I'm gonna click on this error to see if it takes me somewhere. So I click on the error and it takes me to this page. And it's talking about the Firestore indexes. And here, if I read, it says, deploy your Firestore indexes, okay, to make sure that queries which use ordering and filtering will work properly. So this is like a must that you have to deploy. You have to deploy this if you want your filtering to work properly. And we're trying to filter, right? So let's just deploy this. And once we deploy it, we can go back to the widget tree, and you can see that now we don't have any errors. We have warnings, but not errors. The warnings are in orange and the errors are in red. So for the orange, I'm not gonna worry about so much because they are just warnings and not errors. Okay. So now we can think about how we want to actually navigate. So we want to maybe add here maybe an icon here with 3 lines. And maybe if the user presses this icon, a drawer appears here. So maybe it slides from left to right. And inside this drawer, we have maybe an icon with an avatar image or an avatar icon just to represent the user. And maybe we have my posts text that when the user clicks on my post, it directs him to my post. So let's try to do that very quickly and see how it would look like. So first of all, let's add in the icon. Okay, so let's just click here on the open a floating widget palette. And now let's look just for an icon. Let's do the same thing that we did earlier. Let's drag it, but instead of actions, we're gonna drop it in leading. And now we can see the icon here. We can set the size of the icon to 32. We can set the color to white. And we can set the icon to be dehaze. Okay, so this icon is called dehaze. Sometimes you don't know the names of the icon, but it's okay. This one is called dehaze. You just choose this one. And now we have the icon. Perfect. Now we need to design the drawer that we want to display when the user clicks on this icon, okay? Or taps on this icon. So to do that, let's zoom out a little bit. And we're gonna go and select the scaffold. So if you want to know what we're doing here a little bit better, let's just collapse some things, okay? Let's collapse this list view, let's collapse this row, and let's collapse the app bar. So here we can see what we have, okay? We have the column, we have the list view, we have the row, which is this message, write the message, is for the user to write the message. So we can rename the row to something that we can understand better. For example, a user input. So this be user input and the app bar. So we're gonna select the scaffold and we're gonna add a widget to the scaffold. So let's add a widget and let's look for drawer. So if you scroll down, you can see that we have the drawer widget. So let's add in the drawer. And now you can see that the drawer appears here, right? So we're gonna design this drawer. So to design it, we would do so like in any other page, okay? Let's add in a column as a start, and let's just center everything inside the column. So let's go here on the right and let's set the main axis alignment to center, the alignment to center. Okay, this looks perfectly fine. Now let's add in an icon. Okay, we're gonna add in an icon just to put in some visuals. So this icon, let's set the size to 150 and let's change the icon to maybe the user. This is only for visual representation, okay? So the user is here. Okay, now let's add in another chat to the column. Let's add in a text. Okay, and we can make this text maybe, I don't know, maybe 24, something like that. Something like that looks fine to me. We can make the text bold also maybe, and we can change the text to, instead of hello world, my posts. So this text, if the user taps on this text, it will direct him to their post, okay? And maybe below here, we can add in another icon, maybe for logout. Maybe it looks good, I think. So let's look for an icon. And yeah, let's add in maybe a little bit of padding on the bottom, maybe, I don't know, 52, but not to the bottom, sorry, but to the top. Something like that. Maybe we can change the size of the icon to 36, or maybe even, I don't know, 40 maybe, something like that. Let's change the icon to logout. Let's choose this one, okay? So maybe we will have all of this. This is gonna be okay, I think, for now. So let's click on the icon and let's set this first action is going to be a logout action. So you have done this, you should know how to do this by now. Let's just click here and add in an action on the actions tab. Let's navigate, not navigate to, but go down and select the backend database and select the Firebase authentication logout. Perfect. Now we can select my posts and we can set the action to the post, add action, and it's going to be navigate to my posts. Okay, perfect. This is looking good so far. So now one thing that we can do, if we want to close this drawer, how do we do it? It's very easy. You have to select the scaffold, so the base widget, and then here it says hide drawer. So now the drawer has been hidden. Okay, now we can select this icon, and when the user taps on here, the drawer should open, right? So let's select it and add an action to the icon. Add, add, add action, and we want to open. So we can search here on the search bar for drawer, and if we here we can see it says close dialog drawer. We don't want to close, we want to open. So we want to select this drawer under the widget UI interactions, and we want to open the drawer. Okay, perfect. So the drawer is going to open. That's what we want. And now if we go to my posts, we can see that once we get to my post, we don't have a way to go back. So let's add in a way to go back. So let's click here on the icon next to the app bar, and let's just select this third option of app bar. So now we have an option to go back by default. Okay, perfect. So let's just try and test this out. The session has expired. No worries. Just create a new one, a new session. Close the old windows. Every time you create a new session, it opens up in a new window. So just let's close the old window, and that's it. Okay, so now let's try to find out if this works or not. Okay, it should work perfectly. So let's log in with j@gmail.com. Password is going to be 12345 Log in. And we should go to the feed. Okay, so now we're in the feed. That's perfect, looking good so far. Now, if we click here, the drawer should open. We should go to my posts, and now we can see here that we have all of our posts. But the thing is that if we go back and we go to the feed, we can see that all of our posts are from the same email. One thing that we could do is we could log out. We could register now, create a new account, and create maybe a new account. I'm gonna just say w@gmail.com. And very quickly, just 12345 12345 create a new account, and now I'm gonna just post some random text. Okay, so here as a new account, I can see all the posts that j@gmail.com has posted, but now I can write my own post. I'm gonna write some random text, and now we can see that we have our posts over here. If I go to my posts, now I can see only my posts. Okay, so everything's working perfectly, guys. I can see my post. I can also give like to my own post. And this is it. I think this is gonna be it for this video. I'll see you in the next video. All right, so now let's go ahead and try to create the delete function. Okay, now that we have access to our post, we're gonna be able to edit the post and delete the post. So let's try to create those functions. We're gonna start with the delete function. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to our project in Flutterflow. And now that we're here in my post, let's zoom in a little bit. We want to actually, when we display this post, we want to have an icon that the user can tap in to delete the post, and an icon to edit the post. So let's zoom in more, a little bit more like this. Let's choose our user email row. We can use it. We can also select it from the widget tree. And what we want to have here, we already have one element. We have the user email. We want to have a row maybe here, a row that is over here maybe, that we can have over here, and inside this row maybe two icons, right? This is going to be our edit icon and our delete icon. So let's go ahead and do that. So inside the user email, let's create a row, and let's rename this row. You can see it over here, right, on my left, and let's rename this row to icons. And now inside these icons, let's inside this row, sorry, let's look for an icon, and let's just duplicate this icon, right? So right click and duplicate. So now we have these two icons inside the row. Now we can select our user email row and go here to the main axis alignment and set the space between the children. So now we have it like this. Now we can select our icons row and add some padding on the right, maybe 8 pixels. Perfect, so there's a distance. Now we can select one of the icons, maybe the first, this one over here, and set a padding so that there's a little bit of space between both icons, maybe 4 pixels of distance, right? Something like that. So now let's just set these icons to their respective icons. So let's set this one maybe to the to the delete maybe. And let's set the icon here on the properties. So let's look for delete. Okay, looking good. And this one, we're gonna set it to edit. So let's set it not to this one, but to this one, okay? Because this one is not, it's gonna be more difficult to set it the right way. So let's click on this one. And now we can see that it is perfectly fine, okay? Everything looks pretty good. Now we have to set the action for this delete icon. So let's click on it and let's go to the actions and let's click on add action and let's go down and let's go down to backend database Firestore because we want to delete a document. Okay, we want to delete a document. So let's delete document. I'm going to set it from the user's document, right? Because this child is getting access to the user's document. Why? Because the list view is getting access to the query. You should already know this by now, but I'm just repeating it just to making it clear again. Okay, so let's set this to the user post document and the reference. Okay, when we delete a document, we delete the reference. So we're gonna delete the reference, and when we update, we also update the reference. Okay. All right, so now let's try to test this out and see if it works. So let's just instant reload. Okay, let's go now to my posts. And we have the two icons, that's good. Now let's go and try and select and click on this icon. And we can see that we are deleting the post. Okay, this looks fine. It looks like it's working perfectly. So this is gonna be for this video. I'll see you in the next video. All right, so now we're gonna implement the function of editing. Okay, we want the user to be able to click this button or to tap on this icon and edit this post. So maybe we want another dialog, so a pop-up maybe appear here on the screen with maybe a text field where the user can see the contents of this post, and also a button that says edit message, something like that. So let's go ahead and create the action for the edit. So let's go to Flutterflow and let's click on the edit action. And now let's go to actions and let's add an action. Okay, so let's go down. And what we want to do with the edit is that we want to show an alert dialog. So we can look for it here okay, we want to show a pop-up, right? But that's what we call here an alert dialog. So let's look for an alert dialog to show the pop-up. Alert dialog. Here we scroll down, we can see that we have alert dialog and we want to choose the custom dialog, okay? And now it says select component. This means that we need to create a component to show here. And what is a component? A component is nothing more than a widget made of widgets. It's just like this list view that we have made here. We can make this list view into a component if we wanted to. Okay, so any widget that contains other widgets, you can create it into a component. And why do we create components? Because when you create a component, you can reuse the component in any different place of your app that you want. So to create a component is very, very easy. You just go here to the left, and right next to new page, you see an option that says new component. So let's click on this new component button, okay? And now it says what name we want to give it to the component. Let's give it a very descriptive name so we know what it does. It's going to be an edit post message pop-up. Okay, it's going to be an edit post message pop-up. So let's create blank. And this is the name that we want. So create component. And now inside this component, we can choose, we can design our pop-up. So let's just click this base component, add in a child. Let's add in a container. And for the container, let's add in the height and width. So here in the properties panel, I'm just changing here in the properties panel, the width to 300 and the height to 300 maybe. Yeah, looks good. And now inside this container, we want to have a column maybe, and then a text field with a button, right? So let's go ahead and do it. So we're going to add a column, and then also let's center the children of the column. So the main axis alignment to center, align the column to the center, and inside the column, we're going to add in a text field. So look for text field, and then let's add in some padding to the text field so it has some space with the button. And let's add in also a button. And okay, so maybe for the text field, it could say something like, for example, okay, so for the text field, we want to have the value we're gonna have the value of the message, okay? And for the button, we're gonna change the button text to edit message, maybe edit message. Okay, so when the user presses this button, then whatever content is in here is gonna this content is gonna override. So we're gonna update our post message with the contents in here. Okay, so we're gonna just add a little bit of padding inside by adding padding to the column. So let's select the column. Let's add in 16 pixels of padding on all sides. Perfect, looking good. Now this pop-up is like it doesn't know anything about this. About if we go back to the sorry, if we go back to my posts, this pop-up is gonna appear here, but it doesn't know anything of this. No, it doesn't know anything about the document reference that this child is getting. So what we want to do with this pop-up is because this pop-up is not here. You don't see this pop-up in this widget tree. So when we click this icon, a pop-up will appear, and this pop-up has to get the reference that this child is getting. Okay, this child is getting the reference to the document, right? To the user post document, and we want the pop-up to also have access to the same reference, so that when we click the update, we're gonna really update this message. Okay, this is the message that we're gonna update, and to do that, we need to give information to the pop-up. So how do we do that? Let's go ahead and select our edit and select our component, our pop-up. And we do this the same way we did it with pages, but instead of a page, it's a component. So we need to add in a parameter, okay, to this pop-up. So we need to tell the parameter what we need to tell this pop-up what kind of component it's expecting as a parameter, okay? So sorry, I'm gonna say it again. We need to tell this pop-up what kind of parameter it's going to get, okay? So we do it here from the component parameters here. Make sure if you don't see these component parameters, make sure you select the edit post message pop-up. And sorry, we got out of it. Let's go back here. So make sure you select this edit message pop-up, and now here you can design your parameters, okay? So because if you select another widget inside this pop-up, you won't see the parameters, okay? You have to select the base widget, okay? So that you can see the component parameters. So now it's gonna add a parameter, and the parameter name is gonna be a user post doc ref. Okay, this is just the name. This is just the name that I'm gonna give to that value that I'm supposed to be getting. Okay, it's gonna be user post ref because it's gonna be the user post document reference. We want the reference of the user post document. The type is of type document reference. The collection is of type user posts, and you're just gonna hit confirm. So now we have told this pop-up, hey, pop-up, you're expecting this parameter. So whenever you are being shown to the screen, you are expected to get this parameter, a document reference. Okay, so now that we have done that, we can actually query this reference, because remember how we did it with the pages, that we got the reference, the page got the reference, so the destination page got the reference from the origin page, and then we queried that reference from within the new page, right? From within the destination page. So we have to query that reference from here. So we can do it from a parent widget, for example, the container. Let's select the container and let's query that reference. We go to the backend query, add backend query, query type, not query collection, but document from reference. We're gonna query the reference that we're getting, and it's gonna be of type user posts. And we're gonna query, and the reference that we're gonna query is the user post doc ref, which is the reference of the user post document. Okay, confirm. And why do we query? Why do we make this query? Because we want the children to have access to this query. Okay, and why do we want the children to have access to this query? First of all, we want the text field to have access to the query, because we want this text field default value to be equal to the message text, okay, to the value of the message, and then also we want this update message to get the reference. This update message is gonna get the reference. Okay, so this message doesn't need the query. Actually, the only widget that needs the query is the text field to get the value. But this update, this is gonna be an update document action, and this doesn't need the query. This only needs the reference, and we are already getting the reference in the pop-up. Okay, the pop-up is already getting the reference. So now let's just set this up. So for the label, let's just scroll down here in the properties, and the initial value, we're gonna give an initial value. We're gonna get rid of this label here, okay? But first of all, let's give it an initial value. So let's click the orange. And for the initial value, it's not going to be the reference, okay? This reference is what the pop-up is getting. But now that we have made the query from the container, we have access to this user's post document. And now we can have access to the message. So now we have the message, but we also have the label. We're going to get rid of the label, so just keep scrolling down. For the label text, just delete the label text, so we only see the message. And now let's click on the edit message, and we will click on actions and add action. We go down to the backend database, Firestore update, because we're gonna update the document. So this document that we're gonna update is going to be, we have to get the reference. It says select reference to update. So the reference is the reference that this pop-up is getting as a parameter. So let's select the user's doc ref. Okay, so nothing from here, but the reference. Okay, we update the reference, we delete the reference, but when we show values, we need to query the reference. Okay, so that's basically how it works. So we're gonna get the reference, and now we have to add the fields that we want to update. So in this case, in this particular case, for this pop-up, we only want to update the message. So let's update the message field from variable, and we want to update with whatever the user has inputted in this text field. So from widget state, as always, and text field message. Okay, you can see that when I hover, it highlights. So yes, went from there. Okay, perfect. So now this should be working perfect as long as we pass in the parameter to this pop-up, because this pop-up is expecting a parameter. Okay, this pop-up does not get the parameter by default. It's expecting it. Now we have to send it to this pop-up somehow. Okay, so now that this is already made, and I think it should be working fine, the only last thing I'm going to do, just for styling, I'm going to select the container, go to the properties, and maybe just set the border radius to 8, so it looks a little bit nice, because I don't like sharp edges a lot. So yeah, a little bit, maybe I just put a little bit of rounded border here. Let's just not to this one, okay? Not to, because here you cannot put rounded borders to the container. I put rounded borders to the container. Okay, now let's go back to my posts, and now let's finish setting this up. Okay, so let's click on the icon, and we were here defining an action for this icon. It was an alert dialog action, custom dialog, and now we can select a component. The component that we can select here, we have the edit post message pop-up, and now this edit post message pop-up is expecting a parameter, and we have to pass it. It's mandatory that we pass it. Okay, we cannot just leave it like this. We have to pass the parameter, and the parameter is going to be equal to the document reference that this child is getting. So let's define it from here. So the name is going to be user post doc ref. This is just the name of the parameter, okay? But the value is going to be the user's post document reference, okay? We're not gonna pass in other things, and we can only pass in the reference because the parameter type is of type reference, document reference. So let's type in the reference. Okay, perfect. So we're passing the reference. Okay, so whenever the user clicks this edit button, the pop-up will appear. The pop-up will get the reference from this post, and it will, first of all, it will display the message on the text field, and then it will give us the option. Thanks to that, we passed in the parameter to the pop-up, we will be able to update it with the update button. Okay, I'm just explaining things over and over again so you get it better. Okay, perfect. So now this should work. Our session has expired. It's okay. Let's just reload the application. Okay, so our application has loaded. Let's see if this works. Let's go to my post, and let's try to click here. And now we can see perfect. Now we can see that our pop-up appears here with the content, with the message of the post, right? This is perfect, because if we made a typo, then we can just edit that typo like this, and that will be it. So let's type in maybe edited message, and let's edit the message. And we can see that the message has edited. One thing I don't like is that the pop-up stays here, okay? So I want to close this pop-up. How can we do this? How can we do this? Very easily. Let's go back to our project. Let's click on the component. And inside here, let's edit the action for the edit message. Let's open the action flow editor, because we want to add an additional action to this update document. Here we update the document, and after this, we want to close the pop-up. So let's just add an action. And for this new action, we're gonna just look here for maybe close. And here, if we look in the search bar for close, here we can see close dialog draw. So this is what we want. We want to close everything, right? So if it's a dialog or a drawer, it will close it. Okay. So now we can reload the app. This was my old session. So this is my new session. Let's instant reload it. Okay, so let's go ahead and try this out. And let's edit, maybe edit message 2 like this. Okay, and now we can see that everything closes and everything works perfectly. Okay, so we can edit, we can delete, everything's working fine. We can go here, back here, we can log out. Everything is looking smooth and very crisp. And this is gonna be it for this video. I'll see you in the final video. Okay guys, so in this final video, I'm gonna show you how to you can publish the app to the web. It's very easy to publish the app to the web, okay? We have to go back to Flutterflow, and here in the sidebar, you have to go to the settings and integrations, and inside the settings and integrations, go to platforms and enable web, okay? Because we're gonna publish our application as a web app so that you can share it with your friends, your family, your clients, okay? So let's toggle on web. Now go to web publishing. And inside here, you have the option to, here on the right, it says enable PWA. If you enable this, if you toggle this on, then when your clients or your friends or whoever tries the application tries it on their phone, a message will appear telling them, asking them if they want to install the application on their phone as a privacy web app, which means that this will generate an icon on their phone, and they will be able to access the application directly from their phone by tapping on the icon. So you can leave this on or off at your will. And now we just need to hit publish. And now this will take us like 5 minutes or so. And when it finishes, it will give you the link to actually go ahead and see your application live on the web, or to share with other people. All right, so we have successfully published our application. This is the link over here. If you want to change the link, you can change it from here. All right, so now if we go ahead and click this icon, we will be directed to our application, and we'll be able to sign in. As you can see, the application is not set to be is not set for desktop. So we set for phone. So if we want to test it as a phone, maybe we should be able to use it like this, right? Maybe just drag the edges of the screen to the center so that you can see it better. And if you share the link, if you copy and paste this link and send it via WhatsApp or other messaging app to your friends, they will be able to use the application and log in with or register. If they want, they can register. So we have created a fully functional app. This app now you can share with the world, and I hope that you have learned many different concepts here that are crucial to the app development process. And I wish you all the best in the future. See you other time.